Do you have a little pre-recorded one? Is that
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to Lawsplaining the Interwebs. I'm your host, Nick Rekieta of Rekieta Law, and with me today is Doug TenNapel. TenNapel?
TenNapel? Put the ape in it.
TenNapel. And what you just witnessed was 100% boomer technology in action. I have no idea what is going on.
Poor old guys. Just feel sorry for us. Just put us out in the field.
Seriously.
Put us out in the field.
So let me backstory that real quick. I got, as you've noticed in some of my other streams, I have a new overlay that my thumbnail guy, Rip Dove, was generous enough to do, and I love it. However, I don't have a setup yet for something where it's just me and someone else and no document on a live stream. So this is the makeshift horrific setup that I've built. Watch out.
Hey.
But so anyways, welcome Doug. So happy that you decided to join me. And
Thanks, buddy.
And I had a great time on your show, and now hopefully I can not make you have a terrible time on mine.
Yeah. No, it's going to be good. I'm ready.
All right. Well, I had a couple pre-game super chats and a couple early ones. Let's go. Let me run through those real quick, and then we'll start talking about all sorts of stuff. And I'm gonna open up with a question from my wife once we get through these. But Carlos Pena says won't be able to catch the stream live. Please tell Doug thank you for creating EWJ, which I assume he means is Earthworm Jim.
That's correct.
Big part of my childhood. Have a nice weekend. Thank you, Carlos Pena, for that. Lucifer Love Monkey says it's Friday night Rekieta! Exclamation point. Thank you, buddy, as always. Then we have Ryan English says Nick thinks he's gonna do this for a living. Yes.
Don't we all? That'd be neat. That's the dream, but no, it ain't. No.
Well, I'm kind of working on it.
That's what you went to law school for. That's why you passed the bar.
It is. It's becoming that very quickly. So YouTube is gay says, now that I've got a job, buy some Axe body wash and get underneath that foreskin. Heart. Okay. That's a little bit interesting. Tillip says, sorry, still working on that overlay. Tillip, of course, is Rip Dove, who I mentioned, Rip Dove on Twitter. And guys, he's great. Great artist, fantastic guy. And you should like his stuff and buy it if he sells it. I don't know, do you sell to other people than me? I don't think we have an exclusivity contract, so get on that. And then Landon Mac and James says, Nick, my autism knows no limits. Glad I recommended you some anime. When will you have me on the show? I don't know, buddy. Maybe when we have some legal issues to talk about. I am not opposed. But pitch me something, and we'll see what we can work out.
Yeah.
So, all right. So welcome to the show, Doug. I don't know, my streams are typically randomly chaotic or super organized, one of those two, but we do not do things in the middle.
Yeah, we're bipolar. We do one at extremes either side, right?
Yes. So I'm starting out with this Milo sweet tea, but in a little bit I am going to move to something a little bit on the heavier manly side with some whiskey.
Yeah, I'm cracking open the old Forester here.
Oh, nice.
My wife, I think I don't know where I had a bottle of Larceny around here and it vanished, so we're going to the old Forester. Larceny's good too.
All right. So, okay. So I wanted to open up with a question that my wife asked me. And let me preface this with, in case you guys don't know, Doug was a writer and producer on VeggieTales. And if you have children in America, you probably know what VeggieTales is. If you don't, you may not, but you may still. But my wife wanted to know why VeggieTales has moved away from sort of more predominantly Christian stories, at least as the setting for their show.
Sure, sure. Well, my thinking is, and this is what I know of VeggieTales, because I hardly ever watched VeggieTales. But I had all these, I have all kinds of family members and friends that were very into VeggieTales in the 90s when they first started out and it first hit big. And Phil Vischer and Mike Naraki got this amazing creation into Target by kind of independently making their own videos.
Right.
Um,
And VeggieTales was, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. VeggieTales was in the 90s was huge.
It was it was giant enough to where they did their own movie in like when was that, 2000-ish or something? They did their own movie.
Yeah.
Like a feature film. That's what really broke the company.
So I mean, but, I graduated in the year 2000.
Yeah.
And my youth group, like the high school kids in my youth group, who, I mean, it was a Catholic Church youth group. Let's not be under illusions. These were still very much teenagers, not like weirdo teenagers. They were very normal. And they were into it. I mean, they watched it. It was hilarious. It had enough jokes to keep older audience's attention, not just like a 10 to 15 demographic or whatever.
Yeah, that was a ton of a lot of people's experience was youth groups would watch it. And of course, young kids would watch it. I never understood because I never really liked it. So I always thought that the humor, like the French peas. What are you drinking there?
I snuck in some Crown Royal Black in this this glass.
As opposed to the normal garbage Crown Royale. You got the Crown Royal Black, which is at least drinkable.
Yes, it was given to me by a Canadian friend of mine.
Oh, good. My dad always drinks Canadian Mist. Well, cheers. Here's to you. So the early stories, let's see, there's Where's God When I'm Scared? And the Hairbrush Song and Cheeseburger. So if you think of all the big hits, they're not Christian. They talk about God, but it's still not exactly evangelical. So I even think that a lot of the religious talk in them is pretty bland and pretty safe. It's like one step above from Oprah.
Yeah.
So it was always seen as more Christian. I would identify it as the audience was always more Christian than VeggieTales was.
Sure.
It's just VeggieTales did the one thing that was forbidden at that time, and that was you cannot bring up God.
Right.
And VeggieTales brought up God. So everyone thought, in a way, it was like a dog whistle. It's like everyone knows this was made by evangelicals and made for everyone. So Catholics watched it. I know a lot of Jews that watched it. I know a ton of Mormons that watched it.
It was
and of
mostly
course, evangelicals ate it up.
It was mostly wholesome. I mean,
it was just wholesome family stuff. Yeah. So, but it was never like, I don't recall them ever presenting the gospel or anything, like as far as an invitation, like accept Jesus or something, which would be weird if vegetables kind of invited you to Jesus. But
I'm gonna do that right after I eat your brother.
That's right. If televangelists can do it, I think singing vegetables can do it. So that was kind of my beef when everyone says the VeggieTales sold out and became secular is I always thought they were more Christian than they actually were. If you go back and actually dissect them, because I watched every episode in research. Now they did formally start ripping some of the God talk out of them when PBS started putting them on the air and CBS put them on Saturday morning and stuff. They would bland out some of the God talk. And that created a pretty big betrayal among the fans. That was early on when they were doing, I believe that was I don't know if that was the late 90s or the early 2000s that they were doing that. So that was the first step into secularization for the VeggieTales, was just kind of, oh, people like the characters, we can move some of the God stuff. And certainly every time they exported it to Europe and to other countries that wanted to show them, they always had to take steps around the characters praying and things like that. And often they scrubbed all of the religious material out for Europe. So they were always doing that from inside VeggieTales. That was part of what they did.
Sure. And Europe's what really needed it.
Exactly. Europe needs it more than we do. That's what is so weird about Christian content is it for the people who are already saved to entertain them, or is it for people who need Jesus? I always thought that Christian anything was not to make me feel more Christian, because I'm not the one that needs the Christian music.
Right.
Know? It was for the lost out there, where you leave the 99 to go after the one. And I don't know of people, I'm sure there were some that were saved by VeggieTales, but overall it was consumed by the Christian ghetto, and it was made for the Christian ghetto. So us, our people.
Right.
Not so much outreach. So fast forward to DreamWorks ended up buying the company that owned VeggieTales. So this one company called Classic Media, something like that, bought up all of these troubled intellectual properties, like hundreds of them. So they owned Lassie and Lone Ranger and like just English Boppy or Bobby or whatever it is, some English show.
Oh, I think I heard
Peabody of that. Peabody and Sherman. Anyways, they ended up buying them. DreamWorks bought that company because they needed the rights for Peabody and Sherman to make the movie. They go, look, we're making the movie, might as well own the company. They bought it, and they ended up getting VeggieTales without really caring. So they did this big Netflix deal, and Netflix was interested in VeggieTales, and DreamWorks liked the idea of branching out and using more of their library. So a lot of the things that you'll see Netflix and DreamWorks doing now came from that library. Things like Voltron, She-Ra. I don't know if the Trolls were in that library or not, or if they bought that separately. But there was like a lot of Harvey characters and things like that, and VeggieTales was one of them. And they asked me to come in and bring my pitch for the show. And so the first thing I thought was, well, VeggieTales was never what I thought was very funny, so I thought I'd make it funny. The animation was never that great, so I thought I'd make the animation great. I kept Bob and Larry, which were my favorite guys, and I hired another musician, Christian musician named Terry Taylor, who was from Daniel Amos and Lost Dogs and the Swirling Eddies, to do all the music. And we made this kind of bigger comedy, rip-roaring, very modern show. And there was and every episode had a scripture, still God talk. Every once in a while, they let me do a parable in it, like the Good Samaritan or something like that, which I always feel is a very good Christian moral without presenting the gospel.
Right.
We just weren't allowed. But to my knowledge, they were never allowed. So it's not like ours was uniquely secular. It just had a little more, I think, higher production values, which probably made it look more worldly than it was. And we were a little more disrespectful and goofy about our humor, broader about our humor. But the audience, the traditional VeggieTales people who just wanted old VeggieTales, they were not happy that they weren't getting that with this new show.
Don't change my stuff.
Yeah. So by far, we got critics from atheists, and we got critics from old Christians. And then we had to develop a whole new audience for this new show, and we did that, of whole new people who really only knew VeggieTales in name because it had a very strong brand recognition.
Right.
But it was, we were never that explicit, not allowed, and not by me. I'd have the veggies full on have altar calls, like, do you want to accept Jesus? That was not the business DreamWorks is in, and that was not the business that Big Idea was in. So
sure.
If anyone was advocating for a more Christian show, it was me.
Very cool. We got two chats I want to get to real quick. Okay. and then there's something you said that I want to play off of and ask you a question about being a creative.
Sure.
Whatever that is. So Landon Mackinjames says, "Oh, this won't be organized, Nick. Ask Doug for me if we can talk religion on his stream. Would be interesting. I'm an anime critic as well, not a cuck." Okay.
I don't know. An anime critic? Okay, as long as he's not an anime viewer, then I'll believe him that he's not a cuck.
I think he might be an anime viewer too. Okay, so Omega says, I live in Springfield, Tennessee. Doug, let's get a beer. My wife and I would love to meet you. Also, Rackets, come to Road Rage Nashville. I'll buy you a scotch. Road Rage Nashville will certainly just depend on timing and what's going on in my world. I would love to come.
Dick asked if I'd come if he'd had it out here. I go, heck yeah. So
Yeah.
Road Rage Nashville, I'm in.
Oh man, you're in for a treat. Road rages are a wild couple days.
Yeah.
But yeah, so okay, so you mentioned something about who is the Christian genred art form. What you pick your medium, but you could do music, movies, whatever. Who is it for? Is it just for Christians to sit back and soak up some good, safe work, or is it is the idea of evangelism and spreading the gospel? And I mean, what I think I know what you would say the purpose should be,
Right?
Because you mentioned it. But go ahead.
I think we were, if you look at the actual mandate to spread the gospel, by Jesus, it does not say that you should turn your work into preaching. So, for instance, you can practice law. You don't have to only get Christian clients and have Christian lawsuits. There are lawyers that do that, by the way, who are defending our rights and things like that at the constitutional level. Love them. That's their job. That's not every lawyer's job. So, in the same with my comics is, I have no problem with just being as good of a comic artist as I can be. I never hide the gospel or anything, but my job is to personally present the gospel and preach, and not. Sometimes people hide behind putting it in their work, and they'll never actually share the gospel with a human being, and they're trying to put it in their work so they don't actually have to do their job as mandated by Scripture.
Right.
So it's optional in your work, other than you have to work as if you're working under the Lord, which means you should be doing the very best work you know how to do, which means your work should be pretty dang good and honest and well done, and work hard at it, and provide and all that. That's about as Christian as it needs to be. As far as entertainment goes, that's where it gets weird, because we live in strange times where everyone pushes an ideology in their story, right? Every story has a worldview. It may be, often it's relativist or postmodern, my truth is all that matters. Or if you really, really feel it, then, follow your dreams, and all this kind of Oprah BS that people, messages that they put in their stuff. Or business is bad and environmentalism is good.
No, that one's a little popular.
Yeah, exactly. You see this stuff preached everywhere. So everyone has a kind of a worldview that they're setting things within. And I have no problem with my worldview being more Western. Let's call it Western, because I believe in the values of the Judeo-Christian values of the West.
Sure.
You'll also see me dabble into paternity, like being pro-father and pro-leadership and pro-honesty and men of character and things like that, to give kids good heroes to aspire to, maybe. So my lead characters, they don't tend to be celebrating being a scumbag, and then that in the end be a scumbag, is
right.
not kind of the stories I want to tell. So I guess my answer probably isn't as convenient and formulaic as just put all your stuff, all your Christianity into your stories. That's not a robust enough view of how we need to tell stories. But there are only true, good, and beautiful stories are worth telling.
Yeah, what I come down to is when you attach a qualifying label to a piece of art. So we say, oh, we're gonna do Christian rock, or we're gonna do Christian music, or we're gonna do Christian art, or make a Christian movie. One, you narrow the pool of talent necessarily, because you bring up, in essence, a sort of social justice warrior style argument of, well, I want to do a Christian movie, but can you have then someone who is overtly critical, but maybe a very good actor? Like, you're narrowing your talent pool.
Right.
And then the next thing is, I think you certainly narrow funding on any Christian project, any overtly Christian project, I would think.
Right.
And that tends to come through. And while they can make some good works, like the guys who do the Fireproof movies and stuff,
Yeah.
they're
I know those guys, by the way. I've pitched to them.
sure. And their quality has markedly improved with each movie they've made
Yeah.
and stuff like that. But at some level, you know, your goal is to spread a message, and I don't think they achieve it in the way that they'd want to, because everybody knows what Fireproof is.
Yeah.
And so then the people who don't want to be preached to won't like it, or just won't even give it a shot. And then I would say then you have disasters, in my opinion, like God's Not Dead, which I found to be absolutely a huge problem, because of the way Kevin Sorbo, who is very, very Christian, but the way he portrayed an atheist professor was such a caricature, and they should have picked anybody other than a philosophy professor. Anyway, I could criticize that movie for a long time.
Here's why I loved it and thought it was delicious, Nick, because I teach on this subject on screenwriting, and all my class, they hate Fireproof and God Is Not Dead.
I liked Fireproof.
And I thought they were both terrible movies, but I loved them. And here's why. Because for all my life, all I do is go and see films that preach, right?
Right, yeah.
They're preaching someone else's message. And in all those films, the priest is the asshole or the villain. The Christian is the nerd, jerk, judgmental. And they're not written by Christians. So that's the equivalent to an atheist writing a Christian character is no different than a Christian writing the Kevin Sorbo atheistic philosophy character.
Right.
I totally feel like the genre of film is robust enough to allow for those kinds of exploitation films. So it's no different than blaxploitation films. It's no different than the horror genre has its traditions. Tyler Perry makes his movies predominantly for a black audience, you know, things like that. Like, there's room for Christian movies made for the Christian ghetto. We call it Christian porn. Is Fireproof. Because there's the story so-so, the acting so-so. It's just made to kind of fire up the Christian audience, and those do huge box office. For how little they cost. They're doing their job. Why should they make Fireproof and God Is Not Dead into an art film until all of the Christian evangelicals will not come? Like,
right.
Is that the goal, is to have that ghetto audience not come?
No. And I'm never one to say that there's not room. I mean, I think there's room for just about any art. You just, as long as you can find a market and market to it, go do it. Absolutely. And I do not begrudge those guys. Like I said, I liked Fireproof. I liked Courageous just fine.
Courageous is another one. So I could never sit through that movie, but I would go to church, and this very hyper conservative, old fashioned guy who just said, Hollywood has nothing to make for me. I hate everything they make. It's anti-family. It's full of, whatever. He went to see Courageous. He goes, Doug, you're into Hollywood, so I got a movie for you to see. It's called Courageous. Hollywood finally made a good one. It's called Courageous. He said, I'll tell you, at the end of that movie, a tear went down my eye, and I stood up, and we gave all of the audience, we gave the movie a standing ovation. So how did that movie fail? It just made money. And if that movie was something different, right? If it was well written and subtle, that guy who cried at that movie and applauded and stood up would not have seen it and wouldn't have enjoyed it.
True.
That's why I'm saying they're one form of product for a tiny slice of the pie. And I think they get a lot of heat because artistically they may be bad, but those people want artistically bad things.
Right. They want overt. I mean, because they're...
Yeah, the same way.
they're tired.
It's like criticizing hip hop lyrics and saying, why isn't this Shakespeare?
Yeah.
You know?
Well, some hip hop's pretty good.
I just bought some propaganda, Christian hip hop. By the way, if you want some good Christian music, get propaganda.
Okay. I try.
He's a great.
I try and avoid Christian music just because I don't know. That's what I do.
Yeah.
But we listen to a lot. You know, just when we're in the car and stuff, we'll listen to The Message or whatever, because we know that whatever comes on is going to be fine for the kids. And that's, you know, that has so much value as a parent, to just have that level of comfort. That's what I do appreciate about Christian genre stuff. And all of my criticisms of Christian genre are not said with the intent of saying it shouldn't exist. I don't think so. I think as long as you can make money at a business, it should exist. I don't care what it really is.
And oftentimes those movies are making money in ways that weird little art films about two trans people getting married, those films will make more money. The Christian ghetto films will make more money.
Oh yeah.
So from a business, that's why Sony is behind them. Sony, and everyone has their Affirm Christian code. Netflix has Faithflix or whatever it's called. They see it as, they get that half of America are Christian, and they are not providing enough product for them that doesn't judge them, but gives them something to celebrate and have fun with. In a way, Duck Dynasty, was one of ours that branched out, and VeggieTales is one that was ours that branched out, crossed over.
Yeah, and I mean that's the I think that's the trick. And there are Christian artists doing it. I think the problem is not with the Christian artists so much. I think there's and you probably know way more about this, but I get the sense that there's gatekeeping that prevents the overtly Christian people from being able to do the subtle piece in the mainstream movie. Yeah. So then
because I've pitched the subtle Christian ones, and they're going, look, this is not what we do. Like, we do one step up from a Lifetime channel movie.
Right.
You know what I mean? From a made-for-TV movie. Mine would be like all, total human drama and real families, arguing at the Thanksgiving table and really grasping with what it means to have a crisis of faith. They're like, that's not what we do. So
you're pitching parenthood with Christianity in it, as opposed to parenthood with just strangely avoiding it in this giant group of families who none of which have any ties to any sort of church.
That's right. They want just the Christian has we already know the end before it begins. The guy's sins that he struggles with are all going to be pretty safe and tasteful. And at the end, there's going to be an altar call. There'll be a guest spot with Franklin Graham. And I'm just saying, we need to create a new genre. I don't judge or shame that genre, is fine. We just need to expand it into something else, if anything. And I think Mel Gibson's the other guy. He's the Christian art film guy who's doing like this brutal Passion of Christ, which I think is fantastic. And, he's considered just a lunatic.
Yeah.
Well, he is a lunatic.
And sometimes he is a lunatic.
But wonderfully so. So I'm just saying, there's room for all of it. I just think, every filmmaker is just trying to shake down money to get it funded. And the kinds of guys that fund films are really the rah-rah Jesus. I'm from Texas and I have $1 billion to fund your God is Not Dead 5.
Well, the thing about billionaires, and I think we've started to see this with, so I want to get into this a little bit. And this is, I don't know what you'll have to say about it, but I'm starting to notice we've got like a wave of billionaires rising to public prominence in a way that reminds me of the billionaires coming out of the 30s and 40s, the new men who are building America. Like, you've got Trump, of course, being a billionaire president is kind of new. We've got Elon Musk who's very prominent, talking about building all sorts of crazy things. Like he's the well, in a weird way, he's like the Ayn Rand hero who's like, no, just give me the opportunity and I'll build it. I've got the money and screw you. And then you got like Zuckerberg and who's
Bezos.
Yeah, and Bezos, who are these weird like you know, they're super wealthy and influential. They're almost a little muted, but they're out there. They're out there. And we haven't, at least in my lifetime, I don't think we've really had that, where we've had this aristocratic class of creators. And I mean, these guys are all, well, I would argue that Trump is not like a creator in the way the others are until he became president. I think that kind of changed his
he won in ways that they never will. When you see all the Google guys with all the power in their hands and they're all having that post-election company gathering and they're just white as a ghost.
Right.
You see Trump, this oafish, barely a millionaire, just cleaned house in a way that fulfilled their greatest nightmare. I just go, "Aw, Trump." That was so good.
It is a nice.
Our money can't buy law. We try to buy law, and he's appointing Supreme Court justices.
Oh, and I want to talk about this Kavanaugh stuff, but let me hit a couple of the super chats before I get like 10 miles behind. Landon Mackenjames says, "You've been tweeting me about mecha anime, Nick," which is true. I used to watch a lot of mecha anime. Also, Doug, "We have tweeted, I may like anime, but have me on. Let's talk religion, anime, and politics." So Landon wants to be on your show very much. And Landon's a good dude, from what I can tell. I don't know. I know you on Twitter and stuff, and you seem fine. Good guy. Hot Snodge says, "Thanks for helping making Christian media great again." Jason Benaim says, "Nick has given an example of what is called a purity spiral." That was back when we were talking about Christian media and who it was for. Lucifer Love Monkey asks, "Kevin Sorbo versus Kirk Cameron, who wins in a fight?" I'll let you feel that one.
Kevin Sorbo would kill him.
I don't know. Have you seen Kirk's angry face?
Well, yeah, I'm just saying, I don't think he has it in him. I think Kevin Sorbo, come on, he's Hercules.
That's true. That's true. Antoid says, "What do you call a carriage with a dry sense of humor? A rye whiskey?" Landon Mackenjames again says, "I'm a whiskey guy too. Let me on, Doug Sensei."
Yeah.
Lucifer Love Monkey says, "Gatekeeping upfront buckle 04. Adam Smith says, "What is an Earthworm Jim?" You want to feel
video game? It's a video game.
It's a video game from the late 90s. Late 90s? Mid 90s.
Mid, yeah.
And that was on Sega Genesis, right? Or was it Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo?
It was on both. We did a simultaneous release, Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo. We did Jim 1 came out in 1994. Jim 2 came out in 1995. And then we did the animated series, and the toy line came out right around 95, I think.
Sure. I had it on Super Nintendo. I think I only had the first one. Sorry.
That's the best one. That's the main one you need to get. First one's best.
Sharky says, "When did you get the Diablo 1 Exocet font drink?" What?
I think you have a drink back there that looks like the Diablo logo. The one on the left, next to Jameson. The little cross on it.
Oh,
that one.
This isn't a drink. This thing right here that I'm holding?
Yeah.
This is actually...
Diablo has a cross in it just like that. Oh, is probably what he's...
Oh, yeah. So, Doug.
Lol salt?
Lol suit. You remember Maddox and Dick?
Yeah.
This is someone made this. This is actually Maddox's 52-page complaint against Dick Masterson on a roll of toilet paper.
Oh, that is so awesome.
I know.
That's a lot of paper.
Yeah. Well, I think it's probably reprinted.
It's repeated
a couple times. But that was from
lawsuit.
I got that in Chicago. A guy was handing them out
brilliant.
at the Road Rage there. I also got
used,
No, they're too valuable.
The third roll? Was there 3 rolls and you had an emergency?
No, I only have these two. I only have these two.
Okay. Well, you have a backup just in case.
Yes. And then Elliot Fernandez says, "My people," with a lot of
Elliot,
exclamation
he's my
points.
art buddy. He's one of the most amazing Marvel DC artists ever. He's been on my show a bunch. He's great.
Oh, hey, welcome to the stream, Elliot.
And a brother.
Hang around. We'll eventually get to Comicsgate.
Yeah.
So Adam Smith says, "Sorry, that was a dumb joke. Please take more money as recompense." That's it.
He's paying for an indulgence. You're Catholic, so we can pay an indulgence.
Yeah. Anytime.
Catholic, so.
Anytime. I forgive you, my son.
Yeah, you're absolved.
And there's no molesting charge on this stream.
That's
either.
Right.
So
there'll be none of that. We're
all
cleaning
right.
house. It's the Second Reformation.
So I wanted to get to the Kavanaugh stuff. I'm guessing that I think you've been watching it, following your Twitter. I can see some tweets that are at least tangentially, if not directly related to it. And one cracked me up. You posted a Bible verse. I can't remember where it was from or the specific verse, but it was basically
First Timothy 1.
Is it the one about women having babies?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, that was funny.
No. I just believe if you can't own the uncomfortable scriptures, you can't own any of them.
And I mean, you wanna ruin someone's day on Twitter. All you got to do is say that women will find happiness having children.
Childbirth. I lost 20 followers on Twitter, so I'm hoping to pick some up from your feed. Guys,
Well,
go to @Doug TenNapel and follow me to make up for the 20.
Absolutely.
Feminists who just shrieked and ran away and said, "I will not buy your work. I hate your guts. Goodbye."
I won't even follow you on Twitter, which is free.
Yeah, I know. Like, I can't stand one more tweet from you. Goodbye. They've been following me for 10 years and now they're gone.
But no, it's a great tweet. It's a great verse, because I think people really do forget that whatever your opinions on the Old and New Testaments are, you have to at least approach them and say, you know what, like this was written, Timothy, of course, being written 1900 years ago, in the Mediterranean, the eastern side of the Mediterranean. What do you think their opinion of women was? What do you expect these guys to say?
They're all, "Men, step aside from your job. Let this woman take over your entire business and be the CEO. And please dry up her ovaries because childbearing is not for her. We need her mind to run this company. Remain single, and all men, you're all probably rapists at the job. So just fire yourselves now. Don't even bother running for the Supreme Court. We will never have another male Supreme Court nominee in our lifetime after Kavanaugh."
So let's get into that. So I mean, what do you do? What do you do? Obviously, my field of study is law. And I just found out today. I don't know. Shockingly, I don't know all of the laws everywhere all of the time. I have research tools that help me.
What?
Because there's so many that it's impossible. It's impossible, even for experts. And I'm not including myself. I'm talking about people who are smarter than me and have been doing this longer. Even they have no idea. But I found out that.
Did you see when what's his face? Who's the lead guy of the whole case today? That was going through it. The main guy. Sounds like he's got a mouthful of marbles. He was sitting right next to Feinstein. Grassley.
Yeah, the Republican.
When Chuck Grassley goes, "We're going to take a break. The 2-hour rule," and you heard off from him. I think it was Feinstein who said, "Like what? Like even they hadn't heard of that rule." He's all, "The 2-hour rule." I don't know what it was, but they had to take a break. So even to them, they call out this rule that is just a total mystery to someone in that chamber.
Yeah, it's and let me make something really clear. If you guys don't know out there, everyone in Congress, I don't care if it's your friend and your parent and your spouse, they're dumb. All of them. They have no idea. They have no idea what they're doing, what they're talking about. They're the least qualified person in every room. That doesn't mean they can't do their jobs. Sometimes they get it done. Most of the time they can't, though. And we should never listen to any advice from them, especially the longer they're in office. Because the longer they're in office, the more they are removed from what the reality of living life is.
And Nick will not make it up as he goes. He doesn't know anything, but he'll go read the right book. I'm just saying to his client.
Yeah, no,
the lawyer that admits he's ignorant is the one you want, because the other ones are ignorant and they're pretending like they know. You don't want those.
Right.
Nick, he knows he's ignorant.
Yeah, no, I'm very open with my clients. They come in, they tell me a story about this, and I say, wow, well, that sounds wrong. I have no idea. It sounds like certainly what happened to you is terrible. I don't know if there's a law that can help you. I know where to start looking. And you start looking. That's how it goes. And, if they come in and tell me they've talked to another lawyer and they say this, it's like, yeah, well, that's fine. I'm going to go ahead and check on that too. But
when you picture that other lawyer, do you picture just like a guy with greased back hair in a really cheap suit, just a dirt bag? Well, I heard from another lawyer, and in your mind, you go to a clean shaven man with slick back hair in a cheap yellow suit, yellow or tan or mustard suit.
Yeah, I know all the lawyers in town because I live in a small town.
That doesn't sound Minnesota, though. That doesn't sound Minnesota.
No, they don't have the slick back look.
Just what if they told you an LA lawyer? They got an LA.
Oh God,
lawyer. An LA lawyer told me.
Yeah, I'd sprinkle them with holy water first.
That's right.
Just make sure they're okay. No, but I am very different from the other lawyers in town. If you come into my office in the summer, I'm wearing shorts and a t-shirt very often, unless I have some specific thing scheduled. Because
and all the other lawyers in town wear dresses, so the shorts, that's really a rebel in your town.
No, they're in suits, and I don't like being that warm. And I don't, it's like if I'm going to court, obviously I'm in a suit because I have to be.
Yeah.
But other than that, can we just be people and not pretend that that we're some sort of weird special thing?
But did you ever try wearing the suit? Like, I've tried wearing the suit. I'm going like, I'm Doug TenNapel. I'm an adult man. I'm 52 years old. I'm going to wear a suit every day, even in the house. I'm gonna wear the button-down shirt and a tie, and that lasted about 3 days. I'm like, this sucks. I'm uncomfortable. I'm putting a t-shirt and jeans on.
Before I was went to law school, I worked for Wells Fargo for several years, or for 1 year. 1 year, sorry, worst year of my life. And I worked for Thrivent Financial for several years. And at the beginning, through Wells Fargo, I wore a suit all the time. We had to wear a tie, but I liked completing the suit with the full jacket and everything. Yeah. I wore that a lot. And then when I started working at Thrivent, I wore a suit with frequency, even though I worked in the back office, never saw clients or anything like that. And our dress code was literally like khaki and a polo. And I would wear a suit just because I was in the financial industry. It felt very professional. And then it got old. Old.
But that's like a company uniform. If you're working in a bank, of course you got to wear a suit. You're not going to walk in with khakis and have people help with a $400,000 home loan.
Oh, I was working in downtown St. Paul. Usually I was helping with a Social Security direct deposit.
Oh, okay.
So, that was a horrible job.
Those people, you need a gas mask and a flamethrower. But other than that was pretty intense.
The funny thing was the lack of awareness that Wells Fargo had about where we were. Because they just have a giant corporate policy. And so, you do have branches in very expensive suburbs. And that's who the policies and the practices were really geared towards. It's like, get this many home equity loans this month. It's like everybody I know, everybody who comes into this bank rents from an apartment in the Skyway. There's no equity.
Some farmer in overalls comes into you as a seed farmer. And you're dressed like you're at a funeral. Money.
But so the getting back to it though, this Kavanaugh thing, so being in the legal profession, I look at this and I find out today. Someone tweeted me a letter from the Maryland State Police Department, and basically they said, we're happy to investigate allegations of sexual assault or anything, but we want to let you know that you're investigated and charged under the statutes at the time. And in 1982, attempted sexual assault and whatever other thing they thought Kavanaugh might be charged with were misdemeanors with a 1-year statute of limitations.
Yeah,
so
it was like a hand slap and a wink. Like, hey, knock that off.
Right, because this wasn't an actual rape. In the case of Ford. Now the other woman who has lots of issues with what her claims are has alleged sort of that there was a rape, although she didn't actually allege that Kavanaugh was into it, that he did it.
Yeah.
It was I know that he did these at parties, and then I was at a party and this happened to me, and Kavanaugh was at that party. It's like it's
and she said she went to many parties.
Yeah.
So does that sound like someone who, after they've been train raped, they go to many parties throughout the year? Does that sound like a victim? I don't get it. None of it makes sense.
Well, it's not the choice that I would make, Doug. If I was train raped at a party, I would like to think that I wouldn't go to the next one.
Go to the next one if they're known for it. But she's going like in many other parties too. I'm going like, okay, this does not make sense now. I'm trying so hard not to be skeptical. I'm trying to believe you. I'm trying to be a sensitive man and give you your say and believe the victim, but you all sound like there's something wrong with you.
Yeah, well, in her statement specifically, it looks like it was written by Michael Avenatti. Because her statement is carefully tailored to avoid a defamation charge.
Right.
Right. So that, and if you can't see that, even people on the left, if you can't see that, you need to relook at that statement. It's guilt by something called conflation. Kavanaugh was at this party. I also was raped. That's a, what is it, Bayesian algorithm? These two things happened, then that must mean that that Kavanaugh was the rapist. But that's not what she says. That's not the claim. And if it were the claim, she could, because there, I believe, has been an unlimited statute of limitations on rape, on actual rape, for quite some time. And so she could actually take that to the Maryland police. But instead, they haven't made that charge, and that, I think, is because if she were to do that, she would very quickly find herself on the wrong side of the law with a falsified police report.
Yeah.
Because
Isn't it just kind of an obvious smell test that we're all missing here? That we all know why this conversation is being brought up.
I mean, you have
he's
to.
He's a conservative justice, a constitutionalist.
Yeah.
Is why all of these things are being shaken out. Why is it that if a Democrat was put up, this stuff doesn't shake out of the trees? Why?
Well, because one, I think in Kavanaugh's case that none of it's true. I think none of it's true, and I'm not actually blaming the accusers for this.
Yeah.
The way human memory works is that so I've put this scenario out there.
It can be conditioned.
Right. So let's say that Ford had interacted with Kavanaugh, maybe had some sort of affinity for him as a friend or something more than a friend. Not saying anything happened, but just like an attraction or just a fondness. So she has that 35 years ago. Now, also 35 years ago, she goes to a party and someone she doesn't really know, while they're all drinking, has some sort of semi-assaultive behavior on her, gropes her inappropriately, possibly in violation of the law. And that happens, and then she doesn't know that person, let's say.
Yeah.
Over 35 years of conditioning, your memory will merge two events and put people in them that weren't there.
Yeah.
Based on, because your brain doesn't, our brains don't work like a computer.
6 months ago, she didn't put them there.
Right. That
Yeah,
too.
like even over 35 years of conditioning, it didn't click.
Yeah. And
That's what I
so
don't get, because she seems like a nice lady. She seems like a good lady. Uh, I don't know what happened to her. I have no reason to think that Kavanaugh attacked her, even when she says something like this happened. I still have no evidence. I don't know.
right. And that's and this is the thing that everybody has been forgetting, not just with Kavanaugh, but with everything else over the past several years with this listen and believe idea.
Yeah.
Listen and believe is great for the victim.
Right.
It's a therapeutic it's a
Right.
therapeutic sort of technique. We
Right.
should do that.
I agree.
Yeah.
Always, if you meet a victim, you always listen and say, yes, tell me more. I'm here to listen to you. Yes.
Right, because
But in law, you're a lawyer.
well,
Is that how things work?
no, but the reality of people's perceptions, I mean, that's the reality that their lives are based on. So if someone genuinely believes they were assaulted or attacked by someone, even if
Yeah.
it's fiction, it
Yeah.
doesn't help them in the short run to just like dump on them and say, no, you're completely wrong,
Right.
you're dumb.
Right.
You got to get them there because their brain's not, you're not going to overcome their internalization that quickly. But when we come to an accusation of a person, especially one that will, I mean, this is potentially life ruining, right? Like not just from a career standpoint, family and children are going to have
already life ruining. I mean, Ford's life is ruined.
Right.
And Kavanaugh's life is ruined.
Yeah, because Kavanaugh's kids forever will have to look at their dad and say, did he do that? Was he like that?
They know he didn't do it.
I know
but they have to sit there and live with everyone, with half of America thinking he did it.
Right. That was the next point I was getting to, is that, you know, every conversation that those kids or their kids, even more appropriately, if he is confirmed and goes on to become this prominent public figure for probably the next 30 years, they're going to have to hear constantly, oh, well, yeah, but your grandpa's a rapist. You know, he raped that girl and got away with it, and that'll be there forever. And there's nothing even close to evidence that any of this happened at this point. Maybe it's out there, but you'd think they'd have it dug up by now.
I saw no evidence.
Zero. No, the only evidence is eyewitness testimony, not corroborated by anything specific, and that's a big problem. That's a big problem.
Yeah, and we don't, in America, if this is the new way that we convict someone of a crime, then you do not ever want a Democrat in charge. I don't care if you're a Democrat or a Republican. You don't want to put that power. If that's what justice is, I don't want them anywhere near power, because that is not justice. There's always an assumption of innocence unless you have to have pretty much overwhelming proof.
Yeah, and if you want to know what it's like to be Kavanaugh right now, there's a group of people who have dealt with this for a very long time in the justice system, and that's black men in sexual assault cases.
Yeah.
And if you want to see it, just go read about those cases from the 60s and 70s. Read about white men getting 6 months in prison and black men getting literally death penalties for the same crimes.
This is To Kill a Mockingbird. This is Emmett Till.
Right.
And the liberals, for how much they touted those as their people, they didn't realize they're doing the exact same thing when you change the skin color. Like they're Emmett Till in spirit. They're To Kill a Mockingbird. They're the Ewell family in spirit.
Absolutely.
They read the books, but they don't know the truth behind them. They don't understand the deeper teaching behind them about when you call an innocent man. I'm not saying Kavanaugh's innocent, but I'm saying he could be. That ought to horrify anyone, that someone like that who could be innocent would be blighted with these kinds of accusations of gang rape and stuff. It's just,
I'll hot take it. I'll hot take it and say he is innocent under our system of justice, and And I want to talk about this a little bit too, maybe, if you're interested.
Let's
But
talk about how you will never be on the Supreme Court just because of this episode. Let's talk about that.
well, there's
How your
there's
dreams,
this.
whatever they are, you will never be on the Supreme Court if you have a YouTube channel, period.
You know, though, I think, gosh, I want to talk to you about how YouTube is changing influence in the world. But let's look at that as a segue. Let me hit these super chats real quick. So Landon Mackin-James says, thanks for saying I'm a good guy, Nick. God dang it, Doug, have me on the show. I've autistically super chatted. Let's talk religion and anime, bro.
I love autistic, religious talking anime guys who super chat Nick. Yes. Yes, we'll talk.
So Jason Bename says, what do you say to otherwise good people who never want to have kids? And I'll let you field that first, because I have my thoughts.
Well, I can almost answer for you because no one feels like having kids. Everyone's terrified. That's normal. I just think you should dodge the greatest bullet of your life and find love and have kids. It's what turns a man into a leader. It will expand you. It will make you realize that you're not the center of the universe, so it will relieve you of your own narcissism. It actually makes you able to empathize with God, because when you see your little children disobey you and act like scum, you go, oh, that's how God feels about me. It really is a great gift, and it's worth fighting for. And by the way, it was the definition of just human flourishing for most of man's 6,000-year history, if not longer, that you need to have kids. And so I get it when some people can't do it. Maybe you can't land a woman, or maybe you're married and you can't. I get it. That is not a tragedy, and you don't have to ever apologize for anyone. But if you're capable, it is the highest calling, and you ought to aim for the highest calling. It's no different than you becoming like, if you dream yourself of being like a great classical pianist or a great artist or a great director or the world's greatest entrepreneur, and you go, I dream of that. The greatest man you'll ever be is to be a parent. And I've told that to friends constantly. They didn't believe me. And then when they had kids, they wrote me back and saying, you were the only one that told me. You were the only one that advocated for parenthood. And I'm telling you now, I know Nick would also say the exact same thing, because I already know with 5 kids, he will advocate for parenthood. So go ahead and give your case.
Yeah, I will say, if you are willfully refusing to have kids because you don't want to, personally, I think you're selling your own life short. You're unnecessarily, I almost said unreasonably, but I'm not going to make that judgment specifically. But you're unnecessarily shutting off one of the greatest sources of joy that you can have. But the caveat of that, of course, is things have a time and a context. And I'm not saying you should run out and just impregnate a bunch of women and have children. That's people who don't like kids. I don't like other people's kids generally, but people who have real struggles with their own children, like with wanting them. We talked to I did an interview the other day with a guy he turned his dad in for possession of child pornography, but the story he told about his relationship with his dad was one of the most heartbreaking things I've ever heard, because his dad was a monster. An absolute monster. And so, yeah, if you're out of context having kids, they're sort of put upon you by your decisions, but you weren't looking for that, or you're not preparing yourself for it, things are going to be a little rough. Although I would suggest that kids also are massively healing in some ways, because they call you to be a better person. They give you a responsibility that you didn't otherwise have. And so, you know, if you're in a relationship where you have the ability to have children, you have the commitment to each other, you should really, I mean, thoughtfully consider why you would stop yourself from doing the one thing. And this is a Christian thing for sure, but it's also, if you don't ascribe to Christianity from an evolutionary standpoint, from both, this is where science and Christianity meet.
I can make every case for it. I can't make any cases against it. And I can make a case for it even if you're a bad parent.
Yeah, and I think it'll make you a better person, and your kids are more resilient than you'll give them credit for. And maybe most importantly, you will be critical of yourself in ways that you never would otherwise have the opportunity, because and I don't care how good of a dad you are, some days you're going to feel like a failure.
Yeah, I am the worst dad in the world. I'm just telling you. My dad, that's all he tells me is like, Doug, I was the worst dad, and I can't believe how good you came out.
Yeah.
I hope my kids will turn out well in spite of me.
Yeah, and I think if you asked your kids, they'd give you a different answer than what you would give. And that's part of the beauty of it. So, you know,
don't you find, Nick, I don't know what your dad is like, but if you're arguing against having kids, aren't you arguing against your own existence?
In some ways.
It doesn't matter how good or bad your dad was. It matters that I'm arguing for your existence. And so to this other guy who asked the comment, I'm arguing that I love his existence. And I'm saying, if you believe that, then you ought to lean into it and have kids.
Yeah, I'll describe my dad this way. He's me, except he's older, funnier, and has more money. Yeah. He's not a lawyer, but we think very similarly, have similar senses of humor, and he's a great guy. I mean, I you know.
And wouldn't it horrify you if he didn't exist?
Oh, absolutely.
Or if you didn't exist, if he just said, let's not have kids.
Yeah, that's be
horrifying, because then your kids wouldn't exist.
Right.
So on behalf of all of this life and all of this character and all of this richness, you have to advocate for kids.
Plus, if you good guys out there aren't having kids, the scummy people are. it's the idiocracy.
Kids will still do great too. There's still scum. We're not judged by where we came from. We're judged by what we do and where we're going. So even if you come from scum, and if your parents were a screw up, and you punch life in the face and say, I am not my caste system. Right. I'm not where I come from. I too have free will. I too have a say in this. So quit making excuses about what your parents did. Get on it. You were designed, whether it's evolution or God, I can make a case for both, that you were designed to get married and have children, period.
Okay, so Buff G Bob didn't super chat this, which I'm going to chastise you for. Just kidding. He asked a very interesting question. And I have an answer, and you can determine if I should go first or second once I read it.
You go first on this one.
Okay, so his question, his statement is, St. Paul says celibacy is a higher calling than having kids, and in parentheses, marriage. What I will tell you about Paul is that was in one of his earlier letters, and if you read Paul carefully and in order, you'll find something very interesting. At the early part of Paul's writing, you get the very distinct impression that Paul thinks that Jesus is showing up tomorrow. And then as it goes on, Jesus is showing up maybe in this generation. And then as you go on, Jesus is going to show up sometime soon, right? Paul, he has this high confidence that Jesus is returning, and remember what return of Jesus Christ is supposed to mean, is that the world will be made new. All of the kingdoms and structures and establishments will be broken down, and God will institute reign on earth. Paul also says that the slaves should not complain against their masters and should be good workers. Paul isn't advocating for slavery in that context. He's saying, look, Christ is coming. We don't have time to worry about this other stuff. You got to start. Notice the follow-up verses in all of those things are about taking your time to make sure the person next to you has heard the good news and is ready. When he's talking about slaves, he's talking about making sure that you're good to your master and your master knows why, that you're a believer in Christ, and that if your master wants to persist and maintain mastery and not become the bottom, then he needs to start accepting that. Paul's early writings are very indicative that he thought that the coming of Christ was right away. And you'll find out that, again, with careful reading, that he mellows on that and mellows on his statements about women. He mellows on his statements about slavery and marriage and all of these things going on. You always have to read, Paul in context.
That's right.
I mean, Paul is making arguments as well. We give him a lot of credit in modern Christianity, but Paul was making arguments against Peter. Paul was making arguments against James. Sometimes they were arguing back. So we give him a lot of authority, but he was a faction. He was a faction of the early Christians, and keeping those things in mind is important when you're reading through his work. So that's my answer.
Read the verse. So this is in 1 Corinthians 7:8. Now to the unmarried and the widows, I say, it is good for them to stay unmarried as I do. But if they cannot control themselves, they should marry. For it is better to marry than to burn with passion. So
he's talking about carnality.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's a whole lot of ways that you can weigh that verse, that I would say Paul is not advocating against marriage. And I really don't think the single life. I'll go back to Genesis on this one, where God says, it is not good that man is alone.
Right.
That means that man was walking in the garden in paradise before the fall with God at his side. And God looked down on him and said, it's not good that he's alone. And he split Eve out of him, meaning even my presence isn't enough. So you can't then make that case in Paul's instance and say, being holy and being godly and being with God is enough. That's not what Paul is saying there. There may be a lot of reasons why it is good for a man to stay single so that he can serve the Lord better. Fine. I never met a man who was holy enough and really into serving the Lord that much, who just was really looking for an excuse not to marry some woman, or afraid of finding love and afraid of being vulnerable and being perhaps the victim of divorce is something that we all risk when we step into marriage. Is, you're taking a huge risk. I get it. And there's a lot of fear with getting married. But I don't think Paul is setting up a new template that we are not to marry. And I can only say, I always think a great wisdom form of advice is, what if everyone did what he was advocating? If no man married, would the good happen? No. Society would collapse. Our country would collapse within a generation. It would be over if everyone followed that verse in that context. So by far, the norm was always considered that man would marry and he would have kids, and women would be these stellar, amazing mothers and wives who men would be happy to die for, is more the template. And I think that's more what we've seen in the West, what has built the West. And it's only in, and the other thing is, like, that verse was never read until modernity, where men started getting afraid of marriage and marriage started crashing through the floor, where men started saying, I think Paul's saying not to marry. That is not true.
Yeah, I don't think he's saying that at all. But that being said, so where were we headed? My brain. I told you guys, chaos.
No, we screwed off on this one. We're lost in the woods. We ain't getting back on the trail. We did Kavanaugh.
Let's
Kavanaugh?
Yeah, we were talking Kavanaugh. I think you're right. The solution, of course, and it's not a solution. This is never good, but the solution is to only nominate women Supreme Court justices. And
Yeah.
and when whatever necromancy is keeping Ruth Bader Ginsburg's corpse standing, whenever that fails, when her binding wears
Crypt
off,
keeper on the Supreme Court. Yeah.
yeah, once that happens, I think Trump's next pick is guaranteed to be a woman. And
Yeah, it's going to be that other girl, the conservative, and we'll see them just pillory her. The one
yeah.
with like 7 kids, who's like a conservative.
Oh yeah,
right?
it's gonna be a wreck.
Oh, I'm dying to see her on the court. Come on, baby. We just need one more liberal justice to be off and have her take their place, and then Roe's done, Casey's done. It's gonna be good.
It'll be very interesting to see what happens.
Yeah.
Although they can surprise you. So I don't know if you know this, but do you know who was Chief Justice for Roe versus Wade?
Was it Black?
Black is the guy who wrote the opinion. He was not the Chief Justice. Chief Justice was Warren Burger.
Okay.
Warren Burger was appointed by President Nixon as the Chief Justice. Fun fact, I went to the same law school as Warren Burger. It's one of 9 law schools in the country to have ever produced a Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, and it was like a night school.
Burn it to the ground after Roe.
Yeah, actually, that's the funny thing. Nixon appointed this guy with the idea that he would actually be a conservative voice.
Yeah.
And of course, I think it was Nixon. Yeah, it's got to be Nixon.
But didn't Bush the first do like Souter or Kennedy or one of those, the liberal squish?
Yeah, I think it was
before they politicized it. That's back before.
Well, and Kennedy, I can't call Kennedy a liberal or a conservative justice. Right. Kennedy, if you notice,
he was a cipher. I mean,
he picks the little guy in the case. Yeah. Kennedy is very much if there's any wiggle room, you'll find Kennedy falling on the side of the little guy. Notice he wrote the case that or the Supreme Court opinion upholding gay marriage. Yeah. He also wrote the case saying that the guy who baked the cake or who wouldn't bake the cake was unfairly treated. Now, he didn't say that the guy didn't have to bake the cake, but he said in this case, the way they treated him was wrong. So Kennedy still sticks up for the little guy in this weird way. Kennedy also wrote the opinion for one of the weirdest decisions. It's Hamdan. It's Hamdan v. Rumsfeld, I think. There was Hamdi v. Rumsfeld and Hamdan. And these are a line of cases that came after 9/11. And Hamdan is the one where we arrested some guys, some presumed enemy combatants, over in Afghanistan. We brought them to Guantanamo Bay. And we were holding them there indefinitely. And they sued for habeas corpus rights and access to the civil courts in the United States. And Kennedy wrote the opinion saying, yes, they should have access to civil courts in the United States, which is oddly different because if you're an American citizen picked up in a foreign country, this was Hamdi. If you're an American citizen picked up in a foreign country as an enemy combatant, you go to a military tribunal. So in this weird case, and there's lots of reasons for this, but Anthony Kennedy ends up giving more rights and more protection to non-citizens and citizens, because who is the weakest possible party but a foreign entity picked up in a foreign country as an enemy combatant? And Kennedy almost always falls on their side. Almost always. So it's weird. But yeah, I think he was he was one of a Bush senior appointee, I think.
Yeah. Get him off the court.
Yeah.
Take the bum off is what I say.
He's done. He retired. That's why we have this Kavanaugh hearing.
Yeah. We need to create some kind of science to resurrect Scalia from the dead. I'm just saying we need to work on that.
Yeah, I'm going to say it. I'm going to say the hot take. Scalia was an inside job.
We need Scalia. You think so? You think with a pillow over his face? I've heard that before.
That's how they found him. His body was removed and cremated before they could order the autopsy. I'm sorry. A Supreme Court justice dies alone in a room ever, and you don't have an autopsy? Like what?
Number 23 lizard aliens did it. The inside job. Killed him off. I've heard that before, though, that he was whacked.
Yeah,
I met him, by the way, at the Reagan Library. I got to meet Scalia.
I'm so mad because
I was just starry-eyed. I had him sign my book. His legal
oh
legal
yeah,
theory book was just great.
I would have loved to meet him. He seemed hilarious.
He was Danny DeVito of the Supreme Court.
Right. I'm so mad. I had the opportunity in law school to do a summer abroad constitutional law class in Ireland from Scalia.
Oh, you're crazy.
I didn't
You
do
should
it.
have done it.
I didn't
And
do
he's a
it
Catholic.
because I didn't do it because I had a wife and kids, and affording a place for all of us to be in Ireland for I think it was 9 or 12 weeks. It was just like there's no way.
Right.
There's no way we could do that. We'd have to rent a house. It was going to cost, I mean, a fortune to do. Yeah. And it would have been a little weird. We would have had to rent a car and everything, because it's different if you're just a student, right? And you're not married. Of course, you can go over there. You can take buses and stuff everywhere. It doesn't matter.
A family starts to cut all that stuff out of your life. That's true.
Yeah. So it's but man, then he dies, and I'm like, no! I could have taken con law from Scalia.
It was the weirdest death ever, and I'm happy. I love the guy. I think Clarence Thomas, by the way, I like even more.
Yeah, Thomas is funny because he doesn't say anything, and when he does, it drives a bunch of liberals nuts.
Yeah. Have you read his book, My Grandfather's Son, that came out like 8 years ago? It's amazing. It's the most wise book you'll ever read.
I'll have to check it out.
My Grandfather's Son. Yeah.
I'll definitely check it out. I've not read it. I don't.
It's a guy who's so humble. In their recess period, he basically rents a Winnebago and drives across America to meet the people. So all these other elites are trying to get away from the people and go to all their Supreme Court justice parties and be the toast of the party. He gets a Winnebago and drives across America. And I love Clarence Thomas. I think he's brilliant. I think he's almost as Scalia, and I love that he is pilloried as a dumb black man on the Supreme Court by my culture.
Yeah,
this goes to show what your culture's made of.
A guy who is infinitely smarter than his critics.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like
and humble enough not to even argue with them. That's how great he is.
Right.
I will read you one day the Litany of Humility, which is the prayer he says every day, a Catholic prayer.
Sure.
It is mind-boggling what he reads as a prayer every day. The Litany of Humility.
Yeah, I'd definitely be interested in that.
Yeah.
So Landon Mac and James says, Doug, let's do a stream tomorrow morning. I'll tweet. Lucifer Love Monkey says Rekieta's dad next week. We'll see. I don't know if my dad ever wants to come on. That'd be.
I'm trying to get my dad on too.
Two quick super chats, and then I want to go right back to that. Lucifer Love Monkey, thank you. No message attached, but thank you, buddy. Landon Mac and James again says, Doug, tomorrow morning, my guy, let's stream.
Okay, send me a message on Twitter and maybe.
He's after you, buddy.
Yeah.
Okay. So you've been a creator, of course, content creator for a long time.
Yeah.
And then I don't know how long your YouTube channel's been going.
Just a couple. I started it in 2007, but I only put a few old videos up, and I started doing it every day in August to support my Indiegogo campaign.
Right. That's the Comicsgate strategy, which is fantastic. Very smart strategy.
It works.
It's amazing when you engage fans routinely and humbly and as just a person, how they respond. It's something I can't believe that the major media companies haven't figured out how to effectively do.
They will. They'll follow it because it's what people expect now, and it works. That's why they're going to do it.
They're going to have to, or they'll be dead. Yeah. I kind of hope they don't figure it out. I hate them. All of them.
Yeah, I do too. I want culture to die. I'm at war with culture, so I agree. But once they figure it out, they'll do it, and they'll try and polish it up. And guys like you and me, with like plain room lights and like no production values, this is authenticity. This is what people really want.
Yeah, it's all I consume media wise. Yeah. I don't watch. I mean, I will sit down with my wife and watch TV and not really pay any attention to what's on the show because I'm just spending time with my wife. But when I'm just consuming for entertainment, for my own personal entertainment, it's almost exclusively YouTube, and it's nothing you can find anywhere. Right. I mean, I watched some dummy sit and take. He's a hot pepper sauce expert.
Oh, I saw that guy who does he does the tasting thing. Yeah, I love it.
And it's like, where could you find this? I mean, you should be able to find it on Food Network, but you can't. Instead, these guys who are doing these types of the expert tastes these two things and tells you which one's more expensive. Yeah. They'll get millions of views on YouTube, but no network would ever pick up that show. Right.
Which, by the way, you and I need to do like a whiskey tasting where you and I each buy the same bottle, 5 bottles of whiskey, and we do like a,
and we drink all 5 of them straight through.
Probably a blind taste test or something where we review them online together, and we go like, try number 1, try number 2, number 5, all the way down to number 5.
Yeah.
And then we reveal what they are and what they cost, and we give our reviews of them. I think that'd be good.
I like this idea. Idea. Agnostic Kazumaki. Agnostic Kazumaki says, howdy guys, keep on doing cool stuff and having awesome families. Thanks, buddy. I really appreciate it. Will do.
Yay.
So the question I was asking, though, before I sidetracked myself was, do you find that your close personal friends and family don't consume the stuff that you put out?
Yes.
Isn't that weird? Is it?
No.
Okay, it's not weird. So explain to me how it's not weird. Because I just started doing YouTube in November of last year at any sort of reasonable clip. And I've been loving every second of it and meeting all sorts of new people. But when I talk to, I mean, we're talking personal friends, very, very few. Personal family, almost none.
Because our friends aren't weird. That's why we don't hang out. My wife does not watch this show, okay? And I have to tell her, honey, like she always hears me talk about the show. And it's like, oh, this is Doug's new thing he's into. It's like I'm working on a car out in the garage, which I've never worked on a car. But it's like our dad's version of like working on a car out in the garage or whatever lunatic thing Doug is into this week. It's like, okay, Doug, yeah. Go in your room. Do you have to do one of your YouTube things? Yeah. And I go, honey, I had blah, blah on. You know, like, you know her. You know, she's like your niece or something. And she'll go, oh, I didn't know. How do I find your channel again? It's like, so, no, they don't consume. My wife, I don't know if she's ever read one of my comics. I've done 17 graphic novels that I've spent 20 years on.
I'm very fortunate in that my wife does occasionally, and more than occasionally, with some relative frequency, she does watch my show and has been very supportive of it. And she'll occasionally pop in the chat too, which is always fun.
No, that's great. But I'm saying when you come home and you've spent your whole day with your mind in law, do you want to sit there at dinner and have your wife going like, so tell me about your theory on stare decisis? You're like, honey, pass. She's like, have some more potatoes. And then she gives you all the, you know, Johnny skinned his knee on the school ground and he got in a fight with a kid at school is normal. Not, what do you think of Teen Titans on Netflix? You know what I mean? Like, I love not coming home and having my wife talking like it's Comic-Con all day and she's in a cosplay, whatever. I love going in my studio here where it is madness. And then I go back out there and it is a normal family where I have to be a responsible dad. I can't cry and bleed in front of my kids. I have to act like I know what I'm doing. I have to pay bills. I have to engage a normal human woman who is not weird in the least way. I don't have a bunch of Earthworm Jim shit all over this house. It's like normal pictures of family everywhere. Like that is my paradise. And so the people I know, half of them, they find out about it and they go like guys I've worked out with at the Y, they're like for 4 years, they go, oh my God, you're a big deal in video games. And I'm like, yeah, but you can bench press more than me, so you're a bigger deal than me.
You're a big deal right here.
That's right. Right here on your show, me and you, we can be as big of a deal as we want to be.
Oh, I was talking about the guy at the gym.
Yeah. But like normal friends, right? Normal friends. I sit and have cigars with guys. Like there's no such thing as comic books in their lives. And I've made Happy Meal toys. These are adult men. They do not buy Happy Meal toys.
Sure.
They have whiskey like us and smoke like us and talk about theology like us, but they're not talking about what robot anime I may watch this week, right? And I'm kind of happy about that. That I can, when I leave this room, it gets turned off. When I'm in this room, total comics and video games, but that is not real life.
And the real Lady Rackets apparently is watching. She said, Rekieta Law, stop doxing me, my dude.
Yeah.
So that's...
Yeah.
And to answer your question, Opus Dei, that is the real Lady Rackets, yes.
Yeah.
So
the lovely.
Yes, the eternally lovely Lady Rackets.
Eternally lovely, Mr.
So, all right. So that's a thing. And I figured that was the norm. And I think there's something else at play too. And it's that these people do know you. And part of the charm, at least for me, of watching people on YouTube is this, it's this drawn out way to get to know someone.
Sure.
And you start to get at what drives them, what makes them tick, you know, depending on the type of show, of course, but what's working out up there, what their beliefs are, what their understandings are, where their failings and strengths are. And that's part of the dance that you do with this content creator. But you know, the person you've been friends with for 20 years, they know that. Right? You've had these discussions your entire life. Why would they sit and watch you for 3 hours? But I always find it really weird because, I went to a family reunion, and that's where it kind of gets a little bit, as you get farther and farther away from the home, you get weird stuff. And I was on a show with Anthony Fantano months and months ago about this Poppy lawsuit, and I went down to my family reunion, and my cousin, who's like, I think she's like a senior in high school. She's like 17 or 18. I don't know. Yeah. Lady Rackets knows. I don't. She knows better. But she walks up to me and she's like, we need to talk. I'm like, uh-oh. I see you once a year. What do we need to talk about? And so then she mentions it that she like just happened to see me in the wild on YouTube, and it was this big thing. It's like, oh yeah, I do this. It's pretty cool. But it's a weird experience though, because the frustrating part of it for me is when I do talk about a current event type thing, and I'll do like a 3-hour stream really breaking down this like big legal issue or something like that. And then like the next day, one of my good buddies he'll send me a message on Facebook and be like, hey, what do you think about this? Like, oh my gosh.
He watched it? Or...
No, they didn't watch it. But I just spent the entire night before that thinking about it and then unpacking it and laying it all out. And it's like, can you please just go watch this thing? Because now I'm done.
Yeah. I just assume that everyone who's in our audience, they're meant to be there. They are not there because they're your family and your friends. They found you from Alaska and from all these other countries, and that's why they're there. The thought that would overlap into your real life is probably pretty rare, I would think.
Yeah, but I wonder if like, Brad Pitt's buddy goes and watches Brad Pitt's movies. That's the...
Yeah, I don't know. I don't watch hardly any of my friends' stuff. You know?
Yeah, you actually know people who are creating, obviously you are too, but you know people who are creating very big media.
Yeah, like real friends of mine who work on actual Netflix shows and like direct movies for Disney. I don't go see their movies. I love them as people, like you. I wouldn't hire you as a lawyer. You and I would hang out if I went up to Minnesota cold. You and me and Mike Nelson would hang out up there. And we would not talk work at all. We'd talk about cigars and whiskey and family.
Oh, Mike Nelson
faith.
from Mystery Science Theater, you're talking.
Yeah, is one of my best friends.
Oh, man, I would love to meet Mike Nelson.
Yeah, well, he's right there in your state. So how far are you from Minneapolis?
Couple hours. I went and saw them live. They did a show. Although Mike wasn't there, I don't think. It was Joel and the other guy.
Yeah, Joel's fake. That's not real. That's Antichrist.
But
Automatic nomination. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, no, we went to their live show at the Orpheum in Minneapolis. I'm a couple hours away. My parents have a house there.
I have them on my show all the time. So I'm just saying, when we talk, I never ever watch. I rarely watch Riff Tracks, and I rarely watch Mystery Science Theater. He and I bond over our shared values and love over like mutual normalcy and just hanging out.
Yeah, he seems like
cigars and whiskey and family, and we talk about career in a very kind of antiseptic thing, not like I'm such a fan. I'm not a fan of your legal theory, Nick. I'm a fan of you, which is more important.
How dare you? I'm a fan of my legal theory.
Just be like, bro, let's hang out, man. We're gonna have a blast.
Yeah, and I mean, I will talk law with people in context of conversations, but I get exactly what you're saying. You know, when you're present with someone, be present with the person, not with the profession. That's a normal automatic practice that we have. Even there are guys I network with in my town who are various business owners. You know, and we do Scotch Fridays a lot of times at my office, and and there's like, we'll do 5 minutes of networking, like, oh hey, I talked to this person who I gave them your card, or they need your card, or I want you to talk to them. That's fine. After that, boom, we're into like Bible, we're into politics, we're into families. You know, that's
as it should be. That's what unites all men. When I go to get my hair cut at Supercuts and get my hair destroyed by a Supercuts person, I am fascinated by them and their job. One of my best friends just got a job at McDonald's as their grill cook. I'm going like, I'm more fascinated by you than my friend who directs Marvel movies. I'm just going like, tell me how the grill works. Like, what are your hours like? I'm fascinated by that.
Tell me about the person who came in and squeezed ketchup onto your coworker on purpose.
Yeah, tell me about that. That's more fun. So I'm just saying, in a way, that's why I like doing the YouTube shows. I get to interview. I'll invite anyone on my show at any time, and I always have fun. And in a way, what I'm saying is everyone is fascinating. If you ask the right questions, no one's boring. No one is the same as everybody else. They are unique, insanely unique, and on like this epic journey. That's what my channel's about, is more about like, I'm bored, so tell me about what it's like to work the grill at McDonald's.
See, what's crazy about that, not crazy, but it's the way these connections come up, because that's not what brought us together. But over the past couple weeks, I've talked about several times on my show in different contexts that I'm just shocked and fascinated perpetually by the stories of people. I went and saw Hamilton the other day, and I was talking to my buddy who is also he's a comic artist as well, and he and I were talking about Hamilton. He's like after he hasn't seen it yet, he's only heard the soundtrack, but he said after listening, I had to go read up because I couldn't believe that this guy's life was a movie script. And I listened to this podcast on occasion from Malcolm Gladwell called Revisionist History. And
I love Malcolm Gladwell.
Yeah, because he does this. He does this better than almost anybody, is he will take the story of a person and he will find these people and the most ridiculous, amazing stories. And they're just, you've never heard of this person in their life. He was talking about this one guy who saved, like, this he was a soldier in World War II,
Yeah.
And he's sitting at a French cafe before the war breaks out, and a woman walks up to him, and he's this handsome, overly educated American GI just sipping coffee in the middle of Paris. And she says, "You're an American, right?" And he says, "Yeah." She says, "Are you going back?" And he says, "Yep, I'm going to get out of here before things get bad." And she says, "I have some art that we need to get out of this country before the Germans come in." And so
That's good.
she hands him this stack of what becomes like it's an early French impressionist. I don't remember his name, but massively important French impressionist.
Sure.
Gives him a stack of these paintings that end up, years later auctioning $50-100 million a piece.
Yeah.
And
Probably Monet or something.
yeah, it's not Monet or Manet, but it's one of those guys that's in that same group. But so he's like got this stack of paintings, and he's like hitchhiking in the back of a truck to go across country, and it starts to rain. So he takes his jacket off, and he's like shielding these things with his body and the jacket, and he's just trying to get out of France with this stack of priceless art. And when he gets home, they give him one. They're like, "Okay, thank you so much. You can have one." And he sells it for like $3-4 million, right? But then he tracks it for the rest of his life and watches it go at auction for like $100 million. Yeah. And he's like, ah. But this guy, the reason Gladwell's talking about him is because this guy is one of the people who was, we did this project in Vietnam before the Vietnam War started. We were in North Vietnam, and we had some psychologists and grad students over there basically interviewing the Viet Cong to try and figure out what makes the Viet Cong and the communists in North Vietnam, what makes them tick. And so they're interviewing prisoners and stuff like that and just talking to these guys. And they came up with the conclusion, the official panel was coming up with the conclusion that we could break the Viet Cong. And this guy comes in and reviews all their stuff and says, not a chance. Not a chance will we break the Viet Cong. They're dedicated to the cause. But so he's telling a story, and it's like, whose origin story is American GI who saves a stack of priceless paintings with his stupid jacket? Like, how is that who you are? And I find though, like that, of course, is this grandiose story, and that guy, he's an unsung but pretty important and very well educated guy. But
he probably put enough art together to fill 2 museums under his coat.
Right. Know? But it's not just that guy that's amazing. Like when you really start breaking it down, and this is what I found working as a lawyer, because my life in that profession is interviewing people in some way or another, and finding them in some of these really awful situations that they need to get out of. And it's like, you start to hear their stories, you start to hear about their families, and you realize that nobody has had the same experience as you have. And it's all just, it's all fascinating. So I
always put it that we're all God's crippled little children.
Yeah.
You scratch the surface deep far enough, and you'll find out where the person is a cripple. And they're just like, their story is amazing. And people who think their story is boring, I've never met a boring person.
No, yeah. And if you think the person across from you is boring, I mean, there is the off chance that you've got someone who's unable to effectively communicate, and that can be boring.
Oh, I've got a neighbor who talks too much, but he's not boring.
Right. But you need to ask different questions, or build a relationship that gets you beyond their initial barriers, and you'll find something pretty impressive, I would think. Yeah. Let me hit a couple of these chats. Kevin Flesher says, "Love you both. Great stream, my guys." Landon Mackin-James says, "Doug, I tweeted you. Have me on," which you already said, send you a message, so that's good. He said, "Also, Nick Rackets, I love you. I'm in your audience, Doug, even though I'm atheist." So that's awesome.
Oh, I like atheists. I want atheists on my show.
Absolutely. Me too.
Absolutely. Yeah, bring them on.
We do not close off markets around here. Yeah. Elliot Fernandez.
Atheists kick me off their show. I invite atheists on my show.
Yeah, exactly. And that's how it should be. Like, Oh, we'll get to this in a second. Let me get through these. Elliot Fernandez says, "Doug, we shan't discuss anime again, lol." Justin Broda. Oh, wait.
He's going to take me to the woodshed, I think.
Uh-oh. Justin Brodak says, Doug, what do you think of Dick and his fans?
I love Dick. Oh, and I also love Dick Masters. That was terrible. I think his fans are great. I mean, I look at these guys as like business models. So what Nick is doing here and what I'm doing, and Ethan Van Sciver and what Dick Masters is doing, these are different business models. We have slight adjustments to the same business model. And part of that model is kind of a family where you set up fans and people who you invite into your life. If you look at, Nick is inviting you into where he works. That is a fascinating part of the business to me, and kind of what the back and forth is and what the fans are getting out of it is fascinating to me. That's part of the business model. You have to provide something that they care about for them to show up. So to me, that Dick has loyal fans or people who click in on my show. They were all kind of repeating kind of a culture, a personal language that shows, that identifies them as part of his audience. I think that's cool. That's kind of, we all want to identify with people, and we all, if I call into Nick, because I see whiskey back there, I know that that's something that we're bound by. And I just go like, hey, Nick, what you drinking? I wouldn't do that to a teetotaler. You know what I mean? To someone who didn't drink, I wouldn't bring that up with such joy. So it's part of our culture that we build with unique people. So I think it's really cool. I do like Dick a lot, and I just think he's a great personality. He's been very kind to me.
I think what they're referring to is when you did the stream with Maddox, there was a bunch of super chats came in, and I'll be happy to say it too. Some of them were a little disrespectful. And that's a fine line to walk when you've got a guest on the show, because and different people do shows different ways. Some people do have very hostile encounters with guests. I don't like to do that, because I want anyone coming onto my show knowing that I'm going to treat them with integrity and respect. And so I try and do that, even if I think that the person has made some grievous decisions. If
you had OJ on your show, you're like, OJ, you're a murderer, but I'm going to treat you with as much kindness as I can.
And if there's a murderer out there watching, I would love to have you on my show, because I think really one thing I've learned from law is that again, we talked about this on your show, that people are these massive canvases, and if you take to put it into comics, if you take one panel of their life and try and define them in that way, maybe that panel has massive impact that ripples out and restricts and controls, like a felony conviction obviously is going to have ripples out, but that felony conviction and how it controls their life isn't who the person is, though. Right. That's a decision that they made. Oftentimes, those are made in some level of isolation from the rest of them. So
tell me about that, like, because our society, because a murderer needs the best defense he can get, our society will appoint him a lawyer who will give him as best a defense as he can manage. Right. Do those lawyers know that he killed someone?
There's a couple ways to go about it. I have never represented a murderer.
Sure.
But the worst.
But if you were called to represent one,
I would.
Is
absolutely.
It your job to know that he's innocent, or is it your job to defend him as best as the law can?
To defend him the best the law can is the job. And here's the two approaches are: you don't ask if they did it,
just in case.
But the other thing is the way you ask, if you need to know the facts of the situation, is, did you shoot this person? Yes. That's different from did you murder someone? It's different from is there guilt there? But sometimes you need to know the fact of and my experience, again, not with murderers, but my experience with other people is they're willing to tell you the factual scenario, around their actions, even if that might be illegal or wrong. I mean, I've worked with domestic abusers and stuff like that, and they'll tell you, yeah, I mean, I hit her. It's like, okay, well, let's find out the facts surrounding the hit and if you are legally liable for it. And then on a personal level, you need therapy. But you know,
but attorney-client privilege,
right?
You're allowed to keep all that quiet to the court.
Yeah, you have to. And so the question is, there's a two-step process to guilt. Did the facts occur? Did this thing occur? And then the second one is there legal liability? The second job is really the job of the court is to find out what facts did happen, what facts are true, and then to apply those facts to the existing law. And once you do those things, you determine whether the person is guilty and legally liable, or if they're not guilty and not legally liable for it. So there are all sorts of reasons you can stab or shoot someone and not end up in prison for it. Self-defense.
Like if there's not a law against it, you can't call down a law that exists against something even that you find immoral.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. No matter how much Twitter wants that to be.
Right. You're not there to invent a law.
But yeah, so, you know, it'll depend on the case. But if I need to know, you know, if we're running a self-defense case, then I need to know that the person stabbed the other person or shot them. I need to know the facts leading up to it. I need to know all of that. The worst offense I've had to deal with was a guy who impregnated his own daughter. And it was a little rough, but and I don't want to dwell too much on the crime.
Yeah, no doubt.
But I can tell you my interview with the person, it was the single most illuminating moment on what people are and how resilient they are, is that we were able to immediately separate this component, this issue from that. And I'll say in that case there's some weird stuff, and I don't know if anybody because of medications and stuff like that, I don't know if anybody knows the actual story, but that guy's in prison, very much in prison, and probably needs to be, unless there's something I don't know. You know, he admitted his guilt and pled guilty, so he definitely, under that standard, he belongs there. He knew it was coming.
He was guilty. He admitted to it. Would you have advised him to say not guilty, even if you knew he was guilty, to lighten his sentence? Because if you admit you're guilty, you don't have a negotiating. Is your job to get him a lighter sentence?
Sometimes, although what I'll say is if the person does not believe that they are guilty, they cannot ethically plead guilty. Okay. And so the hard part sometimes of my job is telling people that under the law they are. Whether or not they should be is a different story. Like there's some weird marijuana cases and stuff where it's like I had a kid who I call him a kid. He was very much an adult, but he seemed like a kid to me. Yeah. He was burning marijuana to get rid of it in a trash fire. And it wasn't actually, it wasn't his. He didn't consume it. Someone asked him to get rid of it, so he got rid of it, and ended up getting caught with it. And they charged him with possession of marijuana. And it's like, well, wait a minute.
Yeah, that's not right.
He's not smoking this stuff. He's not selling it. It's being burned to get rid of it. So should he have been guilty? No, but he did possess it. I mean, under the technical aspects of the law, it was there. So he shouldn't have been guilty for that, but he was. So we got him a really good plea deal. Unfortunately, he ended up killing himself, that was a rough day.
Oh no, terrible.
This is what they don't.
We got a really good plea deal, but he killed himself. So he gave himself the death penalty.
He did.
You got him a good plea deal.
His plea deal was no jail time, I think $100 fine, and after a year, his conviction would go away and be sealed forever. So it would have no impact on his life.
But do you think he killed himself because of the outcome of the lawsuit?
No. It
It was other stuff.
There was a lot.
Okay.
But I'll tell you, I was driving to my office. It was Valentine's Day morning, and his mom called me. And I'm just, happily going to work, and his mom calls and says, "You need to call his dad." So I was representing the family in something unrelated to the crime. And I called his dad up, the mom was very short with the statement. So I called his dad, and then he lays it on me. And then I've got this dad crying on the phone because his son killed himself the night before. And
Wow.
I'm one of the first people they're talking to. And I'm like, whoa, yeah. I have no qualification to deal with this.
That's right.
I don't know what to tell this guy. And I've still got, well, we're going to get the charges dismissed now. Yay. Cause and that was an actual thing. Like I had to, get a death certificate and provide proof to the court that he had died so they could dismiss the charges because he was never officially, he had pled guilty, but he wasn't sentenced. So they don't charge dead people. But then I still had this case with the family, and I had to work with them. And in a weird way, I became kind of connected to them. Like I went to his funeral and stuff, and it was that was a rough thing. But
it sounds awful. There's no way around suicide. You're not going to turn that into a win.
No.
Let me ask you this then, because your whole life is dedicated to the law and defending the Constitution and putting bad guys away or defending people who need the best case they can get in a defense.
Sure.
And my big theory is there is no justice on earth. And I would only make this argument with a Christian. That is, if a man kills his wife or something and you lock him away, that still isn't justice. Can't bring her back. You cannot pay for that sin he committed, whether if you lock him up for life. It will be a dim shadow of things to come.
Yeah, and
is there justice on earth?
No, I don't think so. We have some simulacra of justice. We try and get close. And this is why we wrestle with some of this stuff. This is why we wrestle. Going back to Kavanaugh and Cosby to get beyond Kavanaugh. How far back do we go? Like what? So if Bill Cosby indeed raped these women 20, 30 years ago, is a statute of limitations justice for the victim? Of course, with his crime, with one of them, he was within the statute, so he's been convicted and put in prison. But what does that do? What does that do for the woman in? Because especially with someone like Cosby, where you're going to have at least 25-30% of the people involved saying, even if he confessed, he'll say he never did it. Right. So how is that justice for her? What sentence can you give someone? What amount of liberty can you take away? You throw them in a
cage for 3 to 10 years. That'll probably be a life sentence.
Yeah.
The women are psychologically satisfied to some degree.
Yeah,
but it's so abstract.
Right. How on earth do we give what was taken? You can't. And how do we make someone whole? The way we do it in the civil system, of course, is through money. But money doesn't make people whole.
Because money's also abstract.
Right. Big judgments are like lottery tickets in some ways. But it's like it's the lottery with the worst cost. It's like, I got $4 million. I'm in a wheelchair for the rest of my life. Great trade. Yeah. So how do you ever make someone whole in this world? And you can't. But we try. But what you're asking is why we wrestle with these things. Why we wrestle with the death penalty. Why we wrestle with life sentences or mandatory sentences, why we wrestle with how we punish people. Just the idea like that, going back to that Kavanaugh letter from the Maryland State Police, is like,
Yeah.
in 1982, this would have been a misdemeanor with a 1-year statute of limitations and like a $500 fine.
Yeah.
Now it's a felony. And you get probably 1 to 5 years in prison, maybe 3 to 10, and you'll have to register as a sex offender for a minimum of a decade. Just
Right.
that though. 30 years ago, $500 fine, don't do it again.
Yeah. Times were different. We made a lot of rape jokes back then. Now we put you away and you'll never make the Supreme Court.
So I was talking to Lady Rackets the other day, just yesterday, and I was marveling at how we were talking about my son. One of my sons, we homeschool our kids, and
Good man.
and we pretty much have to, because one, the public school system is a disaster, and it's
and you really want your kids to be socially awkward. What are you
My-
going to do if you want them to be socially awkward? How are you going to put them in a normal school?
I will say my oldest son is like, if he's awkward, it's in the way that he's extremely outgoing and extremely friendly. And,
Cool.
And kind of the opposite of the stereotype. But my younger son, the way he learns is he cannot be still. He doesn't have like an attention disorder. If he was in school, they try and find a label for him.
That's called a normal boy when you have to move to learn.
Right. But guys, shockingly, we've had him checked out for all sorts of things, and his doctor just says he's just got a lot of energy, and he's 7 years old. So he's a KT learner. We used to have, like audio learners, visual learners, and then KT, which is kinesthetic and tactile.
Yeah.
He has to move while he's talking to you and while he learns.
Yeah.
And he would never work out in a classroom. But we were talking about that because I used to have those kind of tendencies, but they were kind of beat out of me in public school.
Sure.
And I told the story of how I was twirling a pencil while listening to a teacher, and the teacher threw me out of class because I had a pencil moving in my hand, and it was very distracting to him.
Yeah. My
But,
youngest is that way too, and I got him a fidget spinner so he would learn. He just goes like bzzz, and he can think. So
Yeah. But I was marveling at the progression of culture, because I thought back to my chemistry class, and I think I was in 11th or 12th grade, I can't remember. But I made a joke. That now would probably send me to literal jail. But
they jack you up on Ritalin, call you Asperger's.
We were using lead filings in the class, because it's chemistry, so we got lead filings, and the teacher said something along the lines of, make sure you wash your hands really well after you use this stuff before you eat, because it could be bad. And my friend said I should take some of this home to put in my sister's drink, and I followed up with, no, that would be date rape. Which is horrendously inappropriate joke.
Yeah.
But here's the difference. Here's the difference between like 1999 and today, is that I could see my teacher wanting to laugh at that joke.
Yeah.
And she said, this is a female teacher, and she said, look, I guess you have to go to in-school suspension. I can't keep you around after that joke. Like, that's just not appropriate, which is fine. It was an inappropriate joke. That's what you do in school, I guess, is or when you're a kid.
I did that as a grown adult, by the
right.
way. I would,
yeah.
At 40 years old, I would make rape jokes with DreamWorks execs, and they'd go, you will now visit human resources.
Yeah. Yeah. Get over it, guys. It's a joke.
My friend was like, he was an exec, and he goes like, hey, Doug, let's have a drink. I go, okay, I'll have a drink as long as you don't rape me. And he goes, why did you use the R word with me? I have to turn you into HR.
In fairness, he might know Harvey Weinstein.
That's true. That's true.
It's like, no, I'm not like that, Doug. That's the other guy.
I've had more Hollywood re-education than most. I've been to the re-education camps more than most.
But nowadays, if you said a date rape joke in school in the presence of impressionable young minds, I mean, you might be expelled. You might
barred for life.
It's crazy. It's crazy. And And guys, it's jokes, it's comedy. We used to all laugh at all of this stuff. Looking back at Kavanaugh's yearbook has been just great. Because he's like, I don't know, we were 16. It was a joke. We found farts funny. Get over it.
His yearbook was cute, and they're like going, "This is code."
Yeah, and
for gang rape and triangle, the Bermuda Triangle stuff. I'm going like, this is exposing how filthy all of those senators are in the room, not what the 16-year-old Kavanaugh was thinking, who apparently, couldn't even land a girl, didn't know what he was talking about whatsoever.
Yeah, and it's like, guys,
total projection.
Guys, this is like the least offensive yearbook I can think of.
Yeah. And the guy, like, he kept a calendar of his whole life. That was my favorite thing. That was like the total Rain Man calendar.
Yeah.
It's like the calendar journal. That was, I just go, okay, not a rapist. I'm sorry. Rapists do not keep calendar journals of everything they did of their football training throughout the year.
If he did, it would be in the calendar.
It would be in the party would be in the calendar. He's the perfect candidate for this time. He must be appointed. I'm just going, you can't let that man get cut out of the system. Well, the system is so wrong.
And the dumb thing is, this is what the Democrats on the panel and everybody involved in this has done.
Yeah.
And Jeff Flake, you're a pile of garbage.
That's right.
You're a huge pile of garbage. We've known it for years now, but you are, buddy, you are a dumpster.
I agree. His quibbling is not neutral, and it's not nuanced. He's a Chamberlain to Hitler. He's Neville Chamberlain, enabling through his quizzling and his equivocation to allow evil to be unleashed on his back.
Right, but
scumbag. Now, be wise, my friend. Be wise.
What they took away from the process was any focus where it belongs on, like, this guy's fitness to be a Supreme Court justice.
Sure.
They took the focus away, and now they've made it into this cultural question. Do we allow unfalsifiable and unverifiable claims to keep a judge from becoming a Supreme Court justice? Because if we do, and we make this decision as a culture, like and whatever we choose, we live with. But if we decide that, then we're going to get this every time.
That's
from
right.
both sides.
We will if people vote. This is the only way you can change is with your votes.
Yeah.
If you don't vote Republican, if you vote Democrat, or if you vote independent, then you're saying, I want this to happen to my husband and my son forever. Because that is the new standard. It's why you have to vote for Trump. It's why you have to vote for all of the GOP in whatever thing, because the only way that you change it in a majority rule democracy is by voting for the side that won't allow that to happen. Which side is not allowing that to happen?
Yeah, and for now, I'm close to agreeing with you. I'm close.
Yeah.
I'm not there yet, but I'm getting closer by the minute.
Waking up to the culture war. I woke up to it.
Oh no!
I woke up to it too late after Trump was elected. I already voted for him, but I voted for him reluctantly. Now I see what the stakes are. And
I was just hoping for a different fight. I was hoping for a different way to fight, and it's
the fight. It has in a democratic in election. If the Democrats win, and they have Google, and they have YouTube, and they have Facebook, good luck with your strategy of going the high ground and the gentleman's way, because those liberties, they flat out won't be. Your options will be worse next time. It's going to get worse. So in a democracy, I'm just saying, like, you do not want these people in charge, because this is the way they're going to run the Supreme Court. The only way that you can mitigate that is by making them lose this November. If they win this November, then I would say, oh, democracy is now close enough will destroy the character of a guy like Kavanaugh, meaning there will never be another male Supreme Court member again.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're
Absolutely.
saying. If they win this November, if Republicans come out and beat them back, then they will be embarrassed and they'll have to pull back and realize they overplayed a weak hand.
I
And
think
that's
they've
what I want
been
the message.
I think they've been overplaying a weak hand since 2016, like really, and
Yeah.
really overplaying it. And I think
Well,
that's
we
hopefully
have to win in November. We have to win this November.
Yeah.
Because if we lose and they take control of the House and Senate, House or Senate, the message is that is what America wants, is for them to demonize a guy like Kavanaugh.
Yep.
Hollywood values do run America. And I'm open to that. I'm just saying, we'll see.
Absolutely. So I've got a couple chats to get through. Ween Peenerstein says SUG. Mildly infuriating. Whoop. It just skipped it. Hold on. I got to find it again.
That's Dick.
Oh, no.
Dick is the Ween.
No, he's Peen Wienerstein, not Ween Peenerstein.
Oh. This is the folk.
No, Dick's usually in the chat as the Dick Show.
Okay.
Mildly
So many code names to keep track of.
Yeah.
It's like Soviet. Okay.
Oh, and I was asking you. I was talking to you about Maddox. I want to get back there a little bit, not to dwell in that too much. But mildly infuriating says, "Hey Doug and Rackets, you ever get into Myth Adventures, Robert Aspirin, or Phil Foglio's stuff?" I will say no. I'm not familiar with either.
No.
Okay, hard no. See, you know what it is. I have no idea. I'm guessing. Landon Mac and James says, "Doug, I'm an atheist, and let's talk anime and comics."
Again? Are they all autistic? Are all these guys autistic?
It's the same guy. It's the same guy, Landon.
Okay, the same guy. Then he is autistic. Okay, yes. Yeah. Autistic, atheistic, anime guy, and comics guy. Come on my show. We'll talk about the same thing 20 times in a row. Yes.
Well, reject him a couple more times. He keeps sending me money. No.
Okay.
I'm kidding.
No, I like this guy.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I'll bring him on my show. Probably tomorrow. Okay, fine.
True American Hero. The originator, I believe, of the rumor that I was disbarred. Thank you for that. Says, "I love your show, Nick, even though I sacrificed children to bail." I love you too. I'm
Here's to neglectful fathers, one of us. Thank you.
I think I know who you are, True American Hero. And I think maybe we could cook some things on the stove. Sharky, what do you think of Maddox's business model? And I think that's to you, Doug.
I don't know the inroads of Dick or Maddox or any of this stuff. I've seen some of what Maddox is working on. I've seen some of what Dick's working on. I'm pro-business overall. I don't have enough information to make a judgment, and I don't know if I can make an impartial one.
Sure.
Because I'm rooting for both guys as men. I think definitely Maddox's injuries, many of them, like all of us, are self-inflicted. How's that?
Yeah, that's fair. I would love to. Man, I hope I sent Maddox a letter. I hope he responds to me. But what I would like, what I think Maddox needs to do, man. Maddox has principles, which I can admire a person with principles, but I think some of his principles are based on at least at being as charitable as possible, logic that I don't agree with. Sure. I would consider it faulty, and he has these principles about his website and about not monetizing some of his best content. And I think
I agree. I don't understand his method.
Yeah.
I'm the first to admit I don't understand what's going on. I've never seen hatred against Maddox as I've seen hatred against anyone on the internet. And that starts to drum up my sympathy.
Sure.
So either I don't get that this guy is Hitler.
Well, I think...
And that's how he's treated.
I think you... you had an interesting position when you had him on your show,
Yeah.
because that was the first time that he has publicly acknowledged this lawsuit. That was the first time that he answered questions. And what I've been saying for a while.
And I asked him solely in ignorance. Like, it was not hit piece. It was not, I don't know what's going on. I'm just like, bro, what's happening? You know, hey, how's it going?
Right. Well, and what I've been saying for a while now is, and you can troll through the Facebook page of Dick Masterson and find it 2 years ago when they broke up the show and they started going their own ways. If you start looking back at the early days of the Dick Masterson Facebook group, you'll find everybody just begging to hear Maddox's side of the story. I mean, we're talking long into the things really coming apart. Yeah. All they've wanted the whole time is like, please just talk about this. Just talk about it.
Yeah.
And what I think the better business model for Maddox would have been to start an internet feud with Dick that wasn't a lawsuit and monetize it. And I think, where they were competing, and I honestly think they could have buried hatchets that way too, in a way that would have been more productive.
That's my problem is I can't come into the middle of a thing where one guy has levied a lawsuit against another guy.
Right. And
start coming in and saying, this is how you must act. Or when I see a massive internet personality that's built on just destroying Maddox as a man, I can't come in and start saying, hey, bro, bad product. That's not my place. I'm coming in way after the fact. So instead, I'll tell both these guys, let me know how I can help you as a man. Don't ask me to endorse what you do, which is kind of what I say to all my friends.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? I'm a fan of you as a man. And I just think we all got to get along. I get it that not everyone's going to get along because we have conflicts and people sue each other and people don't want to get along. And that puts me in the out. You know what I mean? Like, I can't go to someone who has been sued and say, hey, bro, just get over it. That's not my place.
And this is an object lesson from inside the legal system. And this is what I tell people with more frequency than is good for me is don't do this. Don't do this. You don't want the lawsuit. You don't want to be in this. It's a year. It's 2 years of your life, and you're gonna hate it, and it's gonna be stressful, and it's not going to get you what you're after if you have.
That's right.
I mean, there are times when you need justice, whatever our version of justice can be, but avoid it at all costs because it's a disaster.
Not over a comic book, pop culture, internet site of shit posting. That is not worth a lawsuit.
Right.
That would be my counsel to anyone is stay out of court. Because I've been in court. I've had a kid sue me saying that I stole one of his ideas.
Uh-oh.
And this was back in 97 or 98. And I watched my whole life like about to lose my house.
Yeah.
Over some punk kid that said I stole his idea, which was one of my ideas called Project Geeker. That Sony Columbia TriStar came in and totally indemnified me and said, we're taking over this lawsuit. They just countersued the kid and just absolutely destroyed him.
Yeah.
And I just went, I would never steal someone's idea. I will never apologize. And they said, okay, we'll take the suit.
Good.
But I know what it was like to almost lose everything I'd earned. You know what I mean? A house, my family and everything. And it is not
your credibility.
Fun. It's not fun and it's not funny. So I get what these guys are involved with. I don't want to go in there and dick around with that and go, hey guys, I'm taking sides. I'm not taking sides. I'm just going, I apologize if you need me on your side. I'm not taking sides. Instead, I'd rather say, I hope you both figure it out. I'm not making any kind of a judgment of who's right and who's wrong. I'm a fan of you both. And, it's kind of like Kavanaugh. Look at the Democrats. I'm sure there's a couple of Democrats that are honest in the group. maybe one or two.
Statistically, there's got to be one somewhere.
There's got to be one somewhere who actually believes that Kavanaugh is guilty. Or maybe we just take our cues from culture too much, but maybe they're taking their cues and they're honest believers that this guy is bad. And by my defending Kavanaugh, they're saying you're defending a gang rapist, you know, in their tiny little mind construct. And I mostly feel sorry for them for having such a wrong construct. But, you know, I can't just go in and just double down and just keep going, you know, let me drink your liberal tears. Kavanaugh got appointed and you didn't get your way. That's a tough one for me to do. People I care about.
I just want to get past it because it's I said this the other day. I don't care about Judge Kavanaugh. Like personally, there's another Judge Kavanaugh. There's another person.
I only care though if he's innocent.
I mean,
if he's innocent, you can't pass that up.
No, what I mean is like the justice Judge Kavanaugh is not important. Right. Now we've taken the idea of confirming a justice and we've turned it into condemning a person. And that's now it's a battle for the soul of who we are and the soul of who this person gets to be for the rest of his life. Because if he's not confirmed, then he's definitely a gang rapist. Right? Like that's that people say this isn't a court, you know, it's just a confirmation hearing. It's like, no.
It's just a job interview.
Yeah.
You know, like a job interview you've ever had, like destroyed your whole life.
Right. And him not being confirmed is the Republicans saying, nope, we actually do believe that you're a gang rapist. And that's who you are now. Because if he doesn't get confirmed, that's why. That's why now. Yeah. They have not made it about his jurisprudence. They haven't made it about his career. They haven't made it about truth or anything like that. It is now literally a question of, well, do you perpetually rape and assault women?
Yeah. So he has to be confirmed.
I mean, at this point he does. And that's the dumb thing, because otherwise I don't care about him. You could find another federal district court judge who holds similar constitutional perspectives, and you could put them in there, but now you can't. Now you can't.
Like the female Catholic with 7 kids is the next one.
Right.
Oh, she's going to be so. And they'll be like, oh, she's a rapist. She's a gang rapist too.
Yeah, no man would agree to have 7 kids, so she must have.
They're going to be like, she's a gang rapist also. We swear. She was in this fraternity. She hates women. It's going to be great.
So this is a question I'm going to ask you first. Clay's roommate says, "Are you guys pro death penalty?"
Yes.
Okay, so you are.
Yes.
I am not. I used to be.
Sure.
And where I sit on this is, I believe that the state has the authority to use the death penalty for punishment. Yeah. I lack faith in the ability of the state to do it properly. How's
sure,
that?
We totally agree with that.
Yeah,
totally agree.
So I think
but I do believe in the death penalty.
Sure. And like I said, in principle, I do.
Do innocent men also get killed? Yes.
And my problem is lately, especially, and not lately because it was better before or anything like that. I think, I don't know that it was. I just know that lately, in the stuff that I've seen, I am uncomfortable with how the state makes decisions on who lives and dies. So right now, I'm not in support of the United States using the death penalty or individual states using the death penalty.
But Nick, then you'd have a problem with them using their authority to mitigate any penalty. Because they make mistakes. Therefore, everyone's innocent.
That's a bit of a stretch. But
I'm saying, how do you know that only death penalty cases get it wrong? Why wouldn't they also get it wrong in every other form of?
Oh no, I think they absolutely do in other forms as well. And I think when you've got things like the Innocence Project coming out and finding the exculpatory evidence that was there the entire time, and getting these people back in front of a court because they found out that there was a miscarriage of justice. Yeah. The problem with the death penalty is that in a system where we have real issues with putting innocent people to crime, not just to death, is once they're dead, you can't fix it. And you can't entirely fix someone who's been incarcerated for like 20 years either. I get that. But there's some measure of redemption. If someone's been in prison for 20 years and you say, you know what, the state was wrong, or this new piece of evidence came out, you were actually innocent, and we will recognize that. Yeah. And now you do have a chance at life. There's something redemptive about that, even if it's not perfect.
Barely. Hey, man, if you're going to put me in prison for 20 years, I'd rather have you kill me. Please give me the death penalty instead. I don't get this idea that like these men are, I don't know. I have a hard time with that. The idea that a society cannot kill a human being who is harvesting women in his basement as a pain sacrifice to the devil for 11 years and pouring acid in her eyes. If a society does not kill that man, that is an unjust society that does not value human life enough. So that's my stance on death penalties. You have to have it. Maybe you don't give it to everyone. Maybe you don't give it enough. I don't think we give it enough. Less than 500 people are killed a year in America. And more than 500 people deserve it in America. And so in general, I think we're pretty kind. There will be innocent people who will die.
Well, when I say we make mistakes, I mean both ways. For example, my mom was on a jury. Before we moved to Minnesota, we lived in Texas. And my mom was on a jury who did condemn someone to death. And he was absolutely guilty.
Guilty squared, yeah.
Yeah, he went into...
20 years.
Yeah, he worked, getting 3 squares a day. He's out. He's walking the streets.
Yeah. There you go. There's the death penalty.
So this guy, he was trying to get over. This was during the Iranian Revolution, right?
Sure.
And he was trying to join his Islamic brothers in Iran. I think he was Hispanic, but he was trying to get to Iran to help out because he had been converted to Islam. And and he was writing all sorts of like Islamic poetry based on the Quran and stuff like that. So he wanted to get into Mexico because you couldn't fly to Iran from the U.S. in the mid '80s, and so he worked at a McDonald's. He went to that McDonald's one day. He robbed the McDonald's, and his store manager, his former boss, he put him down, or he had him kneel down on the ground, put his hands behind his head, and he executed him in front of people. In front of people on camera. We know it was definitely this guy who did it, right?
Yeah. So guilty.
Then he takes the money, goes to his brother. His brother, who's like my mom described him as far more terrifying and shady than the guy who is the murderer. His brother turns him in. He drives him to the police station, says, my brother just shot this guy in the head.
Yeah. So my brother just shot this.
So he goes to trial. They hear the trial. He gets sentenced to death, and then several years later, he gets like delay after delay after delay. Once he was stabbed by someone else, so he wasn't healthy enough to be killed, which is a weird thing. But then. They get someone in there to read through his old writings, and they determined that he was unfit to stand trial because the poetry and letters that he was writing were crazy. Well, they were like fantastical, allegorical poems. I mean, they were the type of imagery you would have from an Abrahamic religion. And it's like consistent with some of the imagery in like Daniel, for example, or in the Quran, and they used that to determine that he wasn't fit to stand trial, and so he's now out. He was in prison for probably close to 30 years, and then my dad would check up on him from time to time to see if he ever died. Nope, he's out walking around. He executed a person.
Families whom he killed. That is not justice in any way, shape, or form.
Absolutely, and that's what I mean is that there's certainly
so
cases.
You are for the death penalty.
Oh yeah, like I said, my problem is with the state competently doing it. They're clearly
They can't do anything.
they're clearly incompetent. They can't kill the people who should be killed, and they seem to kill the people who shouldn't.
That's right. That's right. That's right. That's because the state is bad. So in case you're thinking about giving them health care, don't do it. Oh, too late.
So Mithrin Emrys, who's a frequent contributor to the chat, I appreciate very much, says nothing like seeing a senator discussing 30-plus-year-old fart jokes with a SCOTUS nominee. and there really is nothing like it. You could never have predicted that would be a legitimate thing going on.
Yeah. All of America knows, both sides of America just went like, that was dirty. Whatever that was.
And stupid. Sheldon, the senator, looked like the most Sheldon he could possibly look during that questioning. Yeah. When Kavanaugh says, "Did you ever play quarters?" No. It's like, well, yeah. Sorry, I asked, Sheldon. Go back to being stuck on the flagpole with your wedgie, you dummy.
Sheldon with your wedgie.
Adam Smith says, Food Wars, Shokugeki no Soma for best animu. That's a weird anime where these fighters have to cook like special foods to give them powers first. I've never watched it. I've seen like random clips. Gats, another.
I'm horrified that you know that, but there you go.
Hey, YouTube's a beautiful thing. Thing. I watched. Okay, so here's how I know that. I watched a video and it was a critique of how prepared food was drawn in anime, in different animes. And it was talking about like what animes did it really well, what was the truest form, and who made the most delicious food. So that's how I know that. So there you go.
Terrible already. Go ahead.
Gats says there's nothing inherently wrong with Hillary. I think there's a lot inherently wrong with Hillary. I think various diseases and maybe neurological disorders that are keeping her from being healthy might be wrong with her.
There's nothing inherently wrong with her being a vampire. There's nothing inherently wrong with that. That's consistent. Go ahead.
She can't step up the foot and a half into a van. That's right. That's inherently wrong with her knees and hips.
She lost to Trump. That alone should tell you what's wrong with her as a politician anyways. Just as a career politician, she lost to Trump.
Like, again, and I have, of all the softballs,
right?
Like, I was in T-ball as a kid. And I don't know if you ever did T-ball, if your kids did, but you get like 5 swings at the stationary ball. And I did see a kid strike out in one of our games. And it was not me, although it should have been. I'm not professing to be good at baseball. But that's what Hillary did with Trump. Like whatever you think of Trump or Hillary, of all the people on earth to go against in a presidential election, Trump is gift wrap.
You're a failure. You failed. You had just one job to do. It was the easiest job in the world, was to beat Trump. And you didn't do it.
You didn't do it because you're the one person who can be so horrifically terrifying and disgusting and unlikable that you couldn't manage it.
You were Trump's wet dream, and that he was hoping that he could run against someone like you so he could win, and he did it. You're the golden BB. This is the magic moment. Hillary, thank you for this magic moment. I just appreciate you so much. Thank you for your coronation, where you ripped this away from Bernie Sanders or anyone else who had a legitimate chance against Trump. I just want to say I have no sympathy for Democrats anywhere for doing this.
And I'm so thankful that they did take it away from Bernie, because I have this horrific fear that he might have won. And I think he's a disaster. But
I thank Hillary for saving us from a communist presidential nominee. I also thank the GOP for running Jeb Bush and throwing all their money down that toilet and wasting it to clear the way for Trump to come in and completely clean up. So because of the GOP going for Jeb and Hillary coronating herself over Bernie Sanders, that's why you have Trump. Now everyone blame Trump.
Yep, blame Trump and Russia.
One guy who is not at fault.
Clay's roommate says, so if Kavanaugh loses his endorsement, is he just blacklisted for the rest of his life as that gang rapist? I think so.
Yes,
I think so.
I
This literally is putting someone on an actual trial that may matter more than a criminal trial in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
He won't go to prison, but he will be persona non grata in almost every circle.
He won't be able to teach anywhere. Culturally, he has to win. By the way, look at how Clarence Thomas has acquitted himself over all these years after being the pubic hair in the Coke can with Anita Hill.
Yeah.
Clarence Thomas is now a beloved Supreme Court justice. That's going to be Kavanaugh over time. Not to the left, because the left are hysterical and psycho.
Oh, and the left still think that Clarence Thomas did it.
Right? Yeah,
Right?
absolutely. They do. They do. People who have not done any research on that go, Clarence, I can't believe what Clarence Thomas did. Okay, very good. You're on the left and you read a lot of Twitter and you get your news from CNN. You poor little puppy. Your life, you must be so unhappy.
Yeah, and stop doing that. Get your news from Doug and me and other people. Like, honestly, people make this big deal out of like what news media has propagandized themselves into over the past 50, 60 years. But it was never that. It was never that before. Right. They were not these giant bastions of supposed impartiality. They were highly partial. And you news media built a relationship with its audience, and it built trust and credibility with its audience. And so then when they were partisan or when they were partial to a story or something like that, the audience knew. They knew it, and they were okay with it because they knew who they were getting. And that's what YouTube and new media is it's actually old. It's just a new delivery mechanism for
Look how normal Nick is. Look at how normal he is. Nick, let me ask you a question. Is Ruth Bader Ginsburg a murderer, a rapist, a consummate liar, and evil person? Is Ruth Bader Ginsburg any of those things?
I don't think so. I mean,
no, she's not.
I just disagree with her.
Is Keegan a murderer, a rapist, a racist, an evil person? Keegan.
No, I just think she was appointed specifically for her vote on Obamacare.
Very good. Is Sotomayor a murderer, a rapist, a molester? Sotomayor.
I hope so.
Yeah, I hope she was, but she's not. My point is, you can trust Nick for your news and for your opinion, because he doesn't go all psycho on people who he disagrees with legally about the most foundational things about life. But the left, Clarence Thomas is an Uncle Tom, puts a pubic hair on a Coke can of a woman, scumbag.
Is that how they hit on people back then? Like, what was the strategy there? Like,
Kavanaugh is a gang rapist, lines them up and bangs them at a party. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you cannot trust people who say those things of people on the court. You can trust us, because we will never say that about Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
No, well, what I will say is I hope she retires and dies peacefully on an island far away from all of us.
Yes. That's what America deserves. That would be good. But
what is happening here? That was weird. So Clay's roommate. Oh yeah, we just did that one. CAZ5166 says Doug is my people. I think Doug is my people too.
Oh, my people. Yeah, we're kindred spirits, man.
Gats says claims only idiots and failures would lose to Trump. Forgets that he also destroyed all Republicans running against him. Hashtag Michelle Obama 2020.
Oh, Michelle Obama.
No, and the primary process is interesting because it consistently there's some interesting commentary out there about how consistently the primary process produces the candidate that no one actually wants.
That's right.
And it's because of how it's done. It's because it's this weird attrition popularity battle. It's how votes get distributed as people go away.
Sure.
And it's weird. It's a weird process. But
And both parties are trying to pick their preferred person instead of letting the people talk in Iowa.
None of this is in the law or the Constitution in any way. And everybody seems to forget that the GOP and the DNC are businesses that control our political process. Like for all these DNC dummies out there saying, "Whoa, we don't want corporate influence in politics." Politics in America is run by two massive corporations that are not bound by law. Like this whole like, oh well, the third party needs a 10% vote to enter the debate. That's a rule under contract between the DNC, the RNC, and the major news networks. That's not a law. That's not a thing that we voted on.
That's right. That's like McDonald's deciding who will come into the debate and who won't.
It's
McDonald's.
the absolute same thing, and it's just nuts that we constantly give in to this sort of idea that the DNC and the RNC have anything to do with
but don't get me wrong, as illegitimate as the DNC, the RNC are, do not throw away your vote on libertarian candidates and third and fourth party candidates, because their business model is even worse. There's like McDonald's and there's Burger King, and then way out here is Whataburger.
Oh,
Whataburger
careful!
Are the libertarians going, hey, we're going to go up against McDonald's. It's like, okay, I get it. It's all run by a business. But, if you want to be in business, get with McDonald's or Burger King.
Oh, Whataburger's burgers are better, though.
Because I don't care if they're better. You're way out there in Whataburger. Your distribution, you only have 300 restaurants instead of 30,000 there.
That's true. Yeah, if you're looking at purely effectiveness and what matters. Because, guys, it's McDonald's fries versus Burger King fries, and you know that McDonald's has better fries.
That's right.
They just do.
That's right. I'm just going, you may like Five Guys. I get it. You like
stop it. I'm getting
Guys.
Hungry.
If you're trying to make money on stock, put your money in McDonald's, where that paste that comes out of that chicken McNugget, that's the money. That paste is made of cash. That's cash paste. And that higher end Five Guys and In-N-Out burger is just, it's for snobs. It's for libertarian. It's for Ayn Rand guys. I apologize, but go home. Go home and play video games, because that's more effective than your vote.
This stream brought to you by the GOP. No.
As I shave my head, and instead of a 666, I have like GOP tattoo.
Yeah.
Every time I was going to wear my Bush Cheney 04 T-shirt, which I have.
We'll know if we throw you in the back of a car and drive you to a welfare office if you start screaming and crying and reeling. That's like, he's got the GOP mark.
The lizard scales from my lizard alien face.
All right, I got to ask you. So behind me is a stack of books, and these are all Warhammer 40K. Do you know anything?
Cool.
Are you're familiar with the universe a little bit?
I'm not as familiar as you are, because that is pretty deviant to have that many Warhammer books.
These are
I have read like one Warhammer book, and I've painted the figures. I very cheaply bought like one little campaign of figures, and I painted them all.
Sure. I'm so inept at physical art that I don't, because my hand shakes when I get like when I try and do fine work with a pencil or a paintbrush. My hand shakes too much for that. I respect the heck out of people who can do it, because what they produce is beautiful.
On my Dungeons and Dragons, I usually do Dungeons and Dragons as my my painted figures.
Oh, sure. Yeah. But I will say that all of these books, all of them, are special edition limited releases. So there are so many more Warhammer books, but all of them are like, they do these like very nice work. They're all signed and stuff. That's
huge. How much can I buy one of those on eBay for if I wanted one of those books?
It depends on the book. Some of them are pretty expensive. This one...
What's the cheap one going to go for?
Well,
a cheap one.
The cheap ones would be, some of these are still pretty new and they still are running on their website, Black Library.
Why are they so thick? They're hardbound and thick. Like I had a little game book, like a little D&D sized game book of Warhammer.
Because they sell. I think that's why.
Okay.
You know, and they get a high return on them. Like this. So this, you may know this guy or know of this guy. Dan Abnett is the, he did, this is a comic that he did. Someone was looking up the other day. This is like, I think this thing's like $400 on eBay right now because you can't get it anymore. But
speaking of by Bigfoot Bill on Indiegogo, my Bigfoot Bill campaign is still going. I'm doing a hardbound Bigfoot Bill comic skate comic.
See, so why is it so thick, Doug?
Because it sells, and it retains its value, and they're not available in stores. They're only available through Indiegogo.
And they look better on a shelf than anything else. That's true. This is how I get away with it with Lady Rackets, is that
you could resell them all and retire, basically.
Well, no, they're all they look gorgeous on a shelf. They've been doing good work putting out a
I
top
want one for my
product.
son because he's a big D&D guy, and I want to introduce him to Warhammer. Would be good.
It's the best. Just buy him the first Horus Heresy book and let him start going to town.
Yeah.
So let's see. Oh, Gatsgat says, you guys have opened my eyes to how important alternative media is. From now on, I'm not doing anything without checking out the Young Turks. Thanks. No! Abort! Abort!
Yes. Just watch the Young Turks on election night. On election night is all you need to watch. It is the best YouTube video you'll ever see. Young Turks election night.
The tears. The tears. Yeah. Well, man, this has been really great. It's getting to be long. I think we should just do it again sometime.
Yeah. It's 1:45 here in Tennessee. Pretty soon I'm just going to fall over and die.
Yeah.
If I don't get to bed.
I'll let you get to bed. I need to go get to bed as well.
Yes.
Got a big day tomorrow. Oh, if anyone's watching, I'm not sure when, so check it out on Twitter, but I will be on the Heal stream tomorrow, which is the Killstream charity event. I'm waiting for Ralph to give me a window of time to be on that, but come on there and let's raise some money for St. Jude's Children's Hospital.
Oh, I love St. Jude's.
Well, come super chat, because 100% of the super chat money, this is a YouTube feature, is that 100% of the super chat, YouTube doesn't even take a cut, goes to a charity if you elect this thing, and they pick the charity of St. Jude's. So the kill stream is going to be going from like 5 p.m. Eastern to 10 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. There's going to be a ton of your favorite internet personalities on there. Dick Masterson will be on there.
That's so cool.
Harmful Opinions. I don't know if like Andy Worski might be on there. A bunch of guys. Go check it out, and again, give some money to charity, ask some questions, make fun of people in the chat. It should be a ridiculous stream. I don't know what they're
give some dough. St. Jude's is just one of the purest charities for helping people in big trouble, in big need, who are just like critically deformed, who need help. St. Jude's will help them and will not charge them money. So all their money comes from donations. You guys gotta cough-in. Give big during Nick's time. Give big during Dick Masterson's time. It's a way to give back, guys. Just if you're thankful for the body you have, that you didn't have to go through the troubles other people have to have, this is a way that you can cough in a little bit of money to help someone else carry their load. Because St. Jude's, this is not a rip-off charity. This is the real deal.
Right. And
on Kill Stream or go to Kill Stream.
It's I think it's actually the YouTube page right now is called Church of Failure, because they got Mundane Matt false flagged him a whole bunch. I think allegedly Mundane Fat, don't come after me. But he allegedly flagged them for copyright strikes on other channels, and so they had to move to the Church of Failure channel, which is where the kill stream is on every night. If you search for the kill stream, you'll find it. But yeah, check it out tomorrow. And yes, Buying Feet Pics in the chat mentions that Dame Pesos is also on there. So if you like Dame Pesos from the Dick Show or from making fun of Mundane Matt, definitely check it out. Do you know Mundane Matt, Doug?
He did a piece on me a year ago with Ian Miles Chang, back when Ian Miles Chang and he came after me.
Oh, back when Ian was a little more SJW.
Yeah, now he's like my best friend. He's like totally flipped over on my side, and now he makes fun of Mundane Matt. So
yeah, well,
yes, Mundane Matt did cover me, but I have not actually talked to him since then. So I don't know.
Sure.
I've
no.
Pretty cried on the air is all I heard. So I don't.
Well, and he's
you know
also
me with all this internet soap opera, like I care.
It's so funny. It's this weird, like, what is less interesting to me is the internet soap opera, and more interesting is just how it wraps people in.
Yeah.
And I love it because it's all crazy, and you see these people put into these situations where, I mean, like, take a step back and ignore any of the actual realities of what they've done, and just put yourself as a guy who's built up a channel with like 150,000 people.
Yeah, and then drained them all overnight.
Well, and suddenly you have 150,000 people calling you like a blubbering liar. Like, no one's prepared for this. Like,
I know. I watched it with Max. And it's like 10 years you're sitting on a throne, and now, like, I don't know what you're going to do, but if you ever believed that was reality before, I feel bad for you now. That's the whole thing. Is I'm like, please come subscribe to my channel, Doug TenNapel.
Go
YouTube,
do it.
Just so you can unsubscribe me and break my heart one day. Come on board and then destroy me.
No, go subscribe for the conversations, the art. Go check out the Indiegogo campaign. If you could DM me that on Twitter, the link to it, I'll drop it into the description. It's your channel's in there now, but I definitely want to put that down there for people to find.
Let me find it now. It's if you look up Bigfoot Bill on Indiegogo.
I would, but if I bring up a browser, it's gonna pop up on my screen, and I don't want to do that.
You. Okay, let me do this now here. I'm at $108,000, so we're already well funded. But I want you guys in my publishing pool so I can send you guys a book. Let me do this and I sent it to you under Twitter.
Hold on. What am I doing here? I think I just did it anyway and screwed up everything.
Yay! Thank you.
Okay, so you sent it to me on Twitter. Yeah, I'll.
Not yet.
Okay.
Hold on.
Well, when you do, I'm gonna go ahead.
Get a book. We're doing a video game of Bigfoot Bill that is going to be I created Earthworm Jim. I have the same programmer on Earthworm Jim that we're going to be working on a video game based on Bigfoot Bill by the same Earthworm Jim program. There, I sent you the message.
Okay, I'll update it after when it won't pop up on my stream.
Yeah.
Maxwell Silver with a late super chat says, "Ask Doug if he loves Israel." Do you love Israel?
I mean, they're the only free Western democracy in the Middle East. So yeah, I'm for Israel. I like Israel. I think they're good.
Well, there you go. I think you and Max will get along just fine then.
There you go.
Max, of course, is a huge supporter of Israel.
Good, Max. If you support Israel, back Bigfoot Bill. There.
And I think Max, didn't you do a stint for the Israel division of Vice News? Was it Vice or something? You were writing independently for them, something like that. But yeah. So anyway, yes. So I will put that down in the stream. But yeah, we should. We'll have to have you on again. Check out his.
Anytime. I'll have you back on mine. You have me back on yours. We'll do this regularly. We'll have some fun.
Absolutely.
You're one of my more interesting guests, so I'd love to have you back. We'll talk some more.
Take that, other guests.
Yeah. Take that, Dick and Maddox. Beaten by a Minnesota little town lawyer.
Yeah. Yeah. What was the line from Big Fish? Did you see Big Fish?
Barely. Yeah. Oh. I barely watched it.
Oh, there's a good line, though, where Ewan McGregor's talking to the giant, and he says, "This town's too small for you, and it's too small for my ambition."
Oh, very good. I like that.
All right, man.
Brother, I'm going to jump. I got to go to bed.
Yep, I'm going to let you go, and thank you so much, and we'll talk soon.
Anytime.
Right.
Oh.
You guys